So, on to this week's Street Talk. Of course, before we get on to talking about what went on the cobbles this week, Gemma, I've got some headlines for you that are related to this week's Coronation Street and maybe the end of last week's as well. Some lovely baity headlines, and you have to tell me, what was this about? First one, Daily Record, right? Coronation Street fans work out that Deirdre Barlow had secret love child in the 80s. And in fact, this has nothing to do with this week's Coronation Street, but I thought it was hilarious when I saw it. So, who was the secret love child that Deirdre had in the 80s? Maybe even give you a point if you can tell me who it was with. Yeah.
Right, so is it somebody who's around now?
The character who was her secret love child, yes, was
Is it a character in the show?
Yes.
So it's somebody who looks like her?
Not really.
Well...
You're not going to guess, so just give me an answer.
It was from the 80s.
Yeah.
Probably this new girl.
Oh, Lou?
Yeah, why not?
Wasn't Lou. Who's the father? Who did Deirdre have a secret fling with in the 80s?
Fred Elliott.
1983. Secret Deirdre. Quite famous
Mike.
story. Mike, yeah. So, according to this article, which was just, as always, stolen from, I think, a Coronation Street discussion group on Facebook, some people were saying, oh, I think, what if Deirdre hadn't had a baby when she had an affair with Mike? And then they decided, what about if it was Billy? That's right, according to this.
Billie Eilish?
No, you plonker. Billy Mayhew is apparently Deirdre's secret love child.
Why not?
Doesn't really work with the timing, but never mind.
Why not make it so? Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? So he was the love child of Mike and Deirdre, but he also managed to kill Mike's wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike's
wife.
Yeah, Susan
Yeah.
Barlow.
Also, he managed
before
to
he even appeared in the show, just coincidentally.
Managed to age about 10 years somehow as well. Manchester Evening News. Coronation Street fans can't unsee Betsy Swain and Carla Connor blunder as they're left sobbing.
Yeah, well, I know what happened here.
Do you? What's this about?
Right, so Coronation Street, well, ITV's not got any money, and so they are now using AI to generate all of the scenes, right? And we all know that AI can sometimes make weird blunders, and so there was a scene where Betsy and Carla were actually they were sort of clipped into one another, so they looked like some kind of giant sexy woman monster.
Betsy and Carla?
Yeah.
Oh, no, maybe it was Lisa and Carla. No,
it was a sexy woman monster with two heads.
Oh, okay, fine. No, this was
I know exactly what it was. It was when 1 minute they were hugging around the top, and then the other time they were hugging around the bottom. Yeah, the
camera cut and they were hugging in a different place. Everybody loved that scene when everyone loved that scene when Betsy ran up to give Carla a hug. Didn't
but they ruined it by their
terrible editing.
Yeah,
this is what left fans sobbing because it was so heartwarming that Betsy has accepted a new mother into her life. Okay, next up, Leicestershire Live's got this headline: Coronation Street fans say, I got lost, as they slam confusing storyline.
Was this just us? Because we do this every week. We say, I don't remember what happened.
What was the confusing storyline that has really baffled?
David.
What
Probably
about
something to do with David and why the money and why.
Yeah, it's the money, the transfer of money and who's going on there.
Who cares now?
Last one, this is from the Plymouth Live. Coronation Street Kit reveals his dad's true identity and he's a former Corals killer.
Now this is weird because I know there's a lot of speculation that Kit is got some kind of secret.
Yeah, there is speculation.
Well, because of this kid, the broccoli head, and everybody thinks that it might be Lou and Mick, but they've got young children, so it might be that Kit is his father.
No.
But no.
That's not to do with this.
Exactly.
Who's Kit's dad?
Who is Kit's true?
It's a former Cobbles killer,
Richard
Gemma.
Hillman.
Yeah. People are saying that Richard Hillman could well be Kit's dad.
You can just
what
say
a load
anything,
of nonsense.
can't you?
You can say anything with these clickbait storylines. It's brilliant. You still talking about Broccoli Boy there? And last week I was calling Brody and his friends the Broccoli Bunch, but of course the Brody Bunch would probably be even better for nicknames, like the Brady Bunch. So I was spoiled for choice for nicknames for them, and they barely even appeared this week as well.
Are they as good as the Grey Hoodie Gang? Don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Right, I've made a bit of a... This week I've got like the David storyline, the David in front of a car. A terrible storyline, I know. And the Daisy storyline was still very much intermingled. Last week I separated them. This week I put them together. They're 100% separate by the end of the week, but I couldn't be bothered to change them. So we're going to be talking about those together first. Then I've got Cassie. She has probably hit rock bottom again, hasn't she? Plumbing the depths, or plumbering the depths, maybe. I don't know. That's what we're going to be doing next. And I love the Cassie stuff this week. We had That was mainly it. Everything else seemed very small. We got
it was a bitty bits.
Yeah, there was Rob on the Run, which we had a few little scenes with. He didn't see much of him this week. Yasmin has been, as you said, she's gone. Oh, that's mine. Did I have that? Yeah, no, I used that storyline last week, didn't I? Yasmin has been. Carpe Diem, a tiny bit of Julie, Dylan the villain, and we had a bit of Dee Dee as well. But yeah, really, it was all of the consequences of the car smash that took up a lot of screen time this week outside the Cassie story.
Dee Dee up the Duff Duff.
That's what we called it, wasn't it? Dee Dee up the Duff Duff. I knew we gave it a storyline title, but it's been the first time. It was the first time we saw Ed this year, literally, in today's episode, wasn't it?
He's
got a little beard. He's got a little COVID beard.
Bearded.
Yeah, in beard Ed. He is beard Ed, isn't he? Yeah.
Oh God, help us.
So we've got a long time to go.
What do you want to do? Who's doing this one?
Because I know this is confusing, I'll do this one. But you gotta stay focused, Gemma, because you might need to help me out.
Am I allowed to ask questions without you getting mad?
No, I'm just saying you might need to help me out in a little bit. So last week we had this epic accident. Well, it wasn't an accident, was it? David planned his own death. It went a little bit wrong.
It was an accident where Daisy is concerned.
Yeah. There was a death involved.
There were elements of accidents in it.
Yes, there were. And it was all the kind of the ramifications of that, really, and the money being transferred. So what happened with the money? Daisy gave Shona money
some
to
of
pay
Daniel's
off Harvey.
Yes,
that's it. So we start Monday's episode outside the hospital because God forbid that they actually start it on the street. And she's telling David, "Look, I transferred the money to Harvey last night. It's all over."
Can I just
thank God for that?
Can I propose a change in Coronation Street, because I think we're all bored of money stuff and transfers.
Never.
and money trees and whatever. Right, I lose focus on it. Why don't we just do a simple swap?
What do you mean?
Just swap anywhere in the script where it says money, swap it out for puppies. I'd be much more interested in this storyline if it was about who had a puppy.
Harvey's owed 10,000 puppies.
Yeah, he's like, I want
Shona.
my puppies. Listen, and Daisy and Shona has to go to Daisy and tell her, I want your puppies, and then.
Well, Mick was asking to see Daisy's puppies today's episode, wasn't
That's
he?
confusing. They have to drop that. And then Jenny's like, how could you get her puppy when she's sad? Everyone knows you need emotional support puppies when you're...
But the thing is, we don't get to see the money particularly on Coronation Street, do we? We just
Exactly,
talk about
so
it. So you wouldn't
money.
get to see the puppies either.
But you save money, though.
Yeah, but if they're talking about puppies, I'd be disappointed if we didn't get to see them.
Exactly. It leaves you wanting more. Okay. When you're watching this, you're not going, oh, I wish I could see the cash. Oh, I'd like to see a big bundle of cash. What I want is for them to walk around with big envelopes of money so I can visualise it. At least this way, you'd be like going, oh, tell me more about these puppies. What kind of puppies are they? How old are they? What colour are they? I don't care about money. It's boring.
This David and Kit and Shona story seem to be tying up a few dangling threads this week, didn't it? Because this was basically a way at the beginning of Monday's episode saying, Harvey's got his money now, it's all over, he's called off his goons, we don't have to worry about him anymore.
I hope so.
I really hope so,
it's
because I've been fed up
with Coronation Street.
There's no reason to think that it definitely is.
No, because they've done that before.
And, Harvey is a pretty nice guy, really, if he's like, that's all I wanted.
Well, he just wants his puppies
Sorry,
back.
I was trying to kill you and everything. I just wanted my money
I just love dogs.
That you took from me. I mean, Harvey was the wronged party here, really, wasn't he? He had that money in a lockup in good faith. But
he doesn't trust the banks. He should, like I said last week, everyone listen to me. Maybe now is not the time to say this, but stocks and shares. Maybe now's the time to buy.
You reckon?
Well, it's all going down.
Anyway, Harvey's happy, and yet I'm just absolutely befuddled by the fact that throughout this whole story, we've not seen Harvey on screen at all.
Yeah,
I've never known a villain be such an ominous presence on Coronation Street before, where they have not even had a single frame of screen time.
Here's another idea. We swap out money for puppies. We swap out Harvey for Dr. Robotnik. Everyone loves the Sonic films, don't they?
Yeah, number 3 was good. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm sure, is Dr. Robotnik trademarked? No way. I don't think so. I think we can have that name, don't you?
Well, they rechristened him Dr. Eggman, so I said Robotnik. That's for grabs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Why you mate? We're being very flippant and changing the topic to things.
I'm tired, so
this is what's going to keep you awake today.
I really do think that I would focus more on this and also I'd feel the menace. I'd understand if Dr. Robotnik was after me, I might throw myself in front of a car.
You reckon?
I'd be like, there's no way, he's got an army of robots. I can't possibly fight him.
Right.
A blue hedgehog that can run at supersonic speeds can't beat him. So what chance do I have, David Platt? I'm just going to kill myself and worry about it later.
It is all over. Harvey is no more. Even Max is safe by Wednesday, isn't he? So thank goodness for that. I'm sure that the problem still lies in the fact that Carla is still owed some money, but for the time being, Harvey's been paid off. Daniel comes out of the hospital and he makes a point of letting David know that Daisy's lost the baby and the money that Shona got is hers. David didn't know this. I couldn't remember whether David knew this, but this was news to him
that it's
anyway.
David's, even though it wasn't actually Daisy's money, it was Daniel's money.
Yeah, I know.
And then Shona has to scramble to explain to David what the hell happened.
Yeah, yeah, good luck with that one, love. So, Daisy, meanwhile, she's back from the hospital. She goes to the pub. Jenny's like, what are you doing here? And obviously they're still not in the best of moods with each other. This week has been them butting heads.
Here's the shorthand for this one. Daisy and Jenny are at loggerheads.
Yes.
Jenny's constantly this week trying to win Daisy's back, and then at the end of the week she does.
Basically. I like Daisy, but I did get a bit tired and frustrated by her grumpiness today, and I know that's this week, and I know that's really bad because she's had some horrible tragedy happen to her. But yeah, Daisy with a pouty face all week didn't really do it for me. It's really difficult
because she was. It's hard, isn't it? I don't think that the grief of losing an unborn child translates into like being a Mardy cow that well. It was supposed to demonstrate her grief, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed the scene that we got later in the week where she's coming out of the. Well, she bumps into Dee Dee, doesn't she, outside the corner shop?
This was fascinating.
Yeah, and Dee Dee's like, "Oh, hi Daisy, how you doing?" And she just tears her a new one. She's like, "Oh, sorry, did I not give the response that I was supposed to make you feel better?"
This is the worst nightmare of anybody who ever. This is why people avoid talking to people that are grieving. Because of stuff like this, and you think to yourself, I don't know what to say. If I say the wrong thing, am I going to be made to feel like the worst person in the world?
Yeah, and it's kind of, as much as I was saying I didn't really like Pouty Daisy this week, that was a kind of refreshing reaction to it, because I bet that people do want to be able to say that, and we're kind of trained by society, especially in the UK, where we would just say, yeah, I'm fine, I'm all right. Like, we don't really, if we're having the worst day ever and someone asks you how you are, generally you'll just say, all right, won't you? Because we're polite like that.
Yeah, I know, but I think most people would say, I don't know. It's really hard because this is what stops me from, talking to people about difficult things sometimes, because I don't want to put my foot in it.
Yeah.
But it's not about you. I guess the point of this is that it's not about you. It's about the person who's going through the time.
And Daisy had a particular reason to be narked at Dee Dee, because, as she points out to her, you're getting rid of your baby. I've not got a choice with mine, you selfish cow. Yeah, but I thought that was quite.
It was really interesting. There was lots of really fascinating stuff about women's fertility and babies and things, that it didn't really feel like it was a full on, face on kind of discussion about babies and pregnancies and stuff. But there was a lot of that going on, and it was really.
It was interesting stuff. David, meanwhile, is understandably blaming himself for this baby's death. I mean, he seems like he's pretty much over it by the end of the week, isn't he? But I'm glad that they at least paid lip service to the fact that what he's done has... I don't think there's any two ways about it. It's his fault. This episode had a bit of a debate about, is it David's fault? Is it Andy's fault? Is it Harvey's fault? And some people say, well, it's nobody's fault. It just is what it is. But who do you put the blame with David? Because I I don't think there's anybody else to blame. I know that Andy was the one
Well,
behind the steering wheel.
It's a fantastical, and I mean that in kind of the original sense of the word. Like, it was a fantastical concept to imagine that you could even engineer a car crash in the first place that would definitely kill you.
Mm.
But you must know that you're going to take people out, or there's danger afoot. You can't control where that car goes.
No.
It was incredibly reckless and dangerous. And also, what kind of idiot organises him to be killed on the street where he lives, where children
Well, this is
are?
what Daisy said, wasn't it? When she got her teeth into David later, she's like, "How dare you? So selfish! You could have gone off to some industrial estate or something somewhere." Dave's like, "Well, look, we're already doing a location shoot this week somewhere else. Sorry, we can't afford to."
I wonder why they didn't do something a bit even more melancholy and tragic and have him want to die where Kylie died, because he could have had Andy run into him.
It was pretty close, wasn't it?
Not really. It was actually on Coronation Street.
Yeah, but you know,
Can you see my point?
Yeah.
He never mentioned that once.
Well, maybe he was hoping that he'd be flung out of the way and then he'd end up in the same spot.
Do you think maybe they didn't have that in there because it would have kind of made it too complicated with Shona, and people might have started to wonder about whether he, still, if he doesn't truly love Shona because he's still thinking about Kylie. I don't know.
Kit comes round to see how Daisy is.
Do you not think it is a bit weird that it never came up at all, that he was trying to kill himself on the cobbles, not, meters from where his wife was bled to death, and it never sort of crossed his mind ever at all? And the fact that there are surviving children from their union who would have had to have seen their parents' blood smeared on the cobbles yet once again.
Twice, yeah.
That never came up at all.
He was utterly selfish, and this is part of the problem, because we said it was a stupid plan last week, didn't we? We said it was pretty well executed on Wednesday, but the whole idea behind it,
the stunt?
No, the stunt was pretty well done, and we enjoyed the some of the artiness of the episode, not all of it.
Right, okay.
But the whole thing of David deciding,
the concept was balmy.
That this is my way out of it, and this is going to solve all my problems.
It wasn't going to solve the problems.
Was utterly balmy, and Daisy says that to David herself later. I don't know if it was later.
You just
Mondays
know
or
that
Wednesdays.
Harvey would have gone
idea.
to Shona and said, "Oh well, now your husband's dead. You got to pay us." You know that he would have said
exactly.
That.
Harvey doesn't get his money back unless he sells off David's parts on ITV Reloved.
Yeah.
How much do you get for David's head? How much do you get for his...
Well, Carla would give you 100 grand for a kidney.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Maybe that was his plan. Maybe he could have sold it
The whole thing is just irredeemable. The idea of the story.
Yeah, it was
really well executed. Like you said, it was well executed, but it was like... I don't know, what was it like? It's like going into a Michelin star restaurant and they give you a hot dog and it's the best hot dog you've ever had, but you paid 150 quid for it, so you're a bit annoyed.
I'd probably be quite relieved if that
you
was
would
the
like
case.
it.
If some, on the rare occasions that we go to really fancy restaurants, I'm sometimes a little bit nervous that I'm going to ruin the day because I'm not going to like the fancy things they got on the menu.
Listen,
we did go to that nice double Michelin star place in
we went to
London
Jim
the other
Carner,
week, didn't we? Yeah, that was good.
Because they have a very reasonable set menu.
We're so going off the track today's episode. Sorry, everybody. Right, Kit comes around the pub to see how Daisy is, and she says, well, to be honest, pretty bad. Me and Daniel have split up. And he's like, you just don't let this come between you and Jenny. It's not her fault. She was in a bad place when she let it slip about me being the father of the baby. Also, she was, she was so drunk, she actually propositioned me. And Daisy's like, what on earth? Jenny tried to drag you out to bed. What on earth?
Well, it's not just, it's the fact that she got drunk and, blabbed a secret and tried to shag him.
It was
what
pretty,
are you thinking?
It was very irresponsible behaviour from Daisy. I'm not going to defend her as much
Daisy
as I love
Jenny?
her. Jenny. Not going to defend her. It was a rotten thing to do. And as somebody who, she's kind of her mum-ish, isn't she, Jenny?
Oh, this was gross. I mean... This was unnecessary again, wasn't it?
Oh, that we had that lovely scene. I really enjoyed the scene in today's episode where Daisy's lying on the sofa and Jenny's there with Daisy's head in her lap and kind of stroking at her hair, and you can feel Jenny's loneliness. It's been how many years now since Johnny popped his clogs? 4, and yes, she's had the odd illicit snog with Stephen Reed, and actually Ronnie was before then, wasn't it? But she's she's been on her own
And
for all
Leo.
this time, and
Well,
but
look,
it doesn't mean that it was a good idea to try and drag Kit up to bed when
Well,
she
this is
knew
the
that he was
problem.
Daisy's sloppy seconds.
well, this is the problem with it, because it's escalated something beyond all reasonable. Yeah. So instead of using that as a plot point that could have been a really fascinating proper story, they've made it into an up in the ante and gets resolved in a week. Like, would you really forgive Jenny for, ruining? Because people are saying, oh, it's David's fault, it's Andy's fault, it's Harvey's fault. It also, if you want to blame somebody, you can blame Jenny, because
Daisy
walked out of that pub in a tiff because she had the fallout about the baby. So it's kind of Jenny's fault too, and she forgives her by the end of the week, which, I wanted that to happen, but I also don't understand why. And it's an Ian McLeod thing where you have to go, let's not fight with sticks, let's use nuclear bombs. Why? When you can get the same amount of drama from what happened without putting this extra layer in, why did you go that far? Because you've created another scenario where the consequences of an action are not the same as what the action is. The consequences of the action, that should have really been it for those two. But we don't want that to happen, so why? Well, I hope I'm explaining myself.
Daisy needs someone to give her a bit of love by the end of the week, and as much as she wouldn't have walked out of the pub had that Jenny not do that. There's so many what ifs in play here, aren't there? She
could have had the same exact drama without throwing Jenny making a pass at Kit.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
You don't need to put that in. You could have saved that for later. You could have used that as a storyline later on and made that the central point of a story. Instead of next week, Audrey's gonna accidentally stab her eye out with a pair of scissors just for drama, and then she's fine by the end of the week. Instead of doing that, why not have something a bit more subtle, like maybe Jenny coming on to Kit? Do you know what I mean? Just don't have everything all at once and make everything the most dramatic thing it could be. There's room for subtlety in a soap.
We get it sometimes, don't we? Anyway, look, Daisy then goes round to see David because he's summoned her to apologise. This is when she finds out about him orchestrating the hit and run, and he's the reason that she lost the baby. He admits it, and this is when she says, "Look, you should have gone on a location shoot at least, not done it on the street." And of course, then she wants the money back. She didn't give any money. She didn't give Shona this money, knowing that David was responsible for this, and he's like, "Well, it's tough. I've given it to Harvey. The story's over. Did you not hear us talking about it?"
I tell you what she should do now is get her goons on Harvey. Get Daisy, get some goons,
Daisy doesn't get any goons.
Why not? Why don't she get some goons? Why don't we get some payback for Harvey? Harvey's not getting any of this, and any comeback on any of this stuff that he's done. Why don't we get all the characters on Coronation Street to band together and pay some goons to make Harvey's life miserable?
Why not indeed?
What's Daniel doing with all that cash now?
So anyway, David says that I'll pay you back honestly.
Whatever.
And David and Daisy, she's just gutted by this.
Everybody's paying everyone else back. What is this, Klarna?
She talks about how she'd already been deciding on names, Benjamin or Evie.
That really got me when she said the names. They were so sweet as well.
Yeah, as much as I kind of found Pouty Daisy a bit annoying this week, that some of the emotional stuff that she did really did get to me, and she was like, "Oh, it's a nice little daydream," and then it all just got wiped out.
The whole thing is
so
just
dramatic.
tragic.
Charlotte Jordan was acting very, very, very well this week.
It's just horrible to know that this is such a common thing that happens, because it's one of the worst things that you can imagine happening. Yeah. But it happens all the time. Well, and I just can't believe how cruel life is.
She ends up going back to the pub and getting mightily sozzled and getting a bit leery at the punters as well, doesn't she? And she does the whole, get out of the pub, I don't want to see anybody here, just as Daniel comes in. This was the week that we finally, again, how long is it going to last this time? Probably not very long, got the reunion between Daisy and Daniel, because after everything that's happened during this story, these two just cannot stop being attracted to each other, can they? They will just be drawn to each other. And this is what Jenny was saying to her. And I loved it, and I was glad by the end of the week that they were back together. But I don't believe it will last forever. Daniel sits Daisy down with a glass of water, and they have a pretty civil conversation together. But she's just like, I'm broken, Daniel. We shouldn't be together. We're toxic. And Daniel says, well, look, the first Daisy that I fell in love with would not take this line down. Come on, where's your spirit? Where's your fight, girl? So Shona comes back later to the hospital and isn't particularly happy to hear, of course, that David has fessed up to Daisy. What on earth is Kit gonna say? He's already, you're not in his good books, but when Kit finds out that you're responsible for the death of his unborn child, he's gonna have your guts for garters, mate. So Shona then goes back to Daisy in the Rovers. Not exactly pleased to see her, is Daisy, of course, and Shona's like, please, look, Daisy, don't tell Kit. Don't go to the police. We just need to keep this a secret. It was an admirable attempt, wasn't it, from Shona? But really, Daisy's not got... Well, Shona does still have that over Daisy about her running into her with the car.
Why is she begging her not to... I'll be like, this is part of the blackmail.
Everyone seems to have some kind of secret about someone, doesn't she? But Jenny bursts in and tells Shona, "You get out! How dare you try and put this on Daisy? No way! You made your own mess here. You sort it out yourself." So I think Jenny here, as she does a couple of times during the week, is trying to get herself back into Daisy's good books by defending her, isn't she? And I think she does clearly care for her. It's not like, I'm going to do it just because I want to... her to forgive me. She is genuinely protective over her, but Daisy, like, she doesn't want to. She's not interested in Jenny's help at the moment, and she says, "Look, you're the reason that I'm there, Jenny. I would not have been out in that road if you hadn't done all that with Kit. You're the reason my baby died, and I'm never gonna forgive you." Drama at the end of the episode. Wednesday comes along, and this is the resolution. So Monday was the end of the Harvey versus David, wasn't it? This is the end of the Kit versus David episode.
Is it? It feels like it is.
They kind of has pretty much said it in the dialogue towards the end of the episode. It was like, let's tie everything up. This is also Max's last episode. We want to move on. We want to get Audrey by number 8 by the time Friday's episode comes along.
Look, are we all sick of this? Should we just get on? Should we just say
it did feel a little bit like that. So Shona brings David back home to the flat, and he's like, this story's been going on for months, Shona, hasn't it? Should we just get the ball rolling and move him back to number 8? Shona's a bit concerned that he is so quick to want to get this over, but I probably would have too if I was him, to be honest. Then we get at work at the police station. Lisa tells Kit that Andy's been brought in. So we last saw him hobbling away after the accident. I guess the accident's not an accident, was it? Well, part of it was on Wednesday, but he's now been caught saying, look, it was an accident, the crash. He's not dropping David in it at the moment. Then we go back to the pub, and Daisy shows up at work, and Danny's like, well, what are you doing here? I thought we had a massive fallout. And Daisy's like, I don't care. Just stop trying to pretend that you care for me as well. It makes me sick. Shona arrives next and says that, thank you for not reporting me or David. And Daisy's like, to be honest, I just want this all over. We're all sick of this, aren't we? I'm not going to forgive you, but I'm not taking it any further. This is when Kit comes in next, and Daisy doesn't tell him about this deal that's all gone on. And Kit says, look, I just wanted to let you know...
Well, Kit's trying to fish for information. Yeah. He's like, look, why is Andy coming in, who's mates with David, and he looks like he knows he's been involved in this accident. Accident, in inverted commas. Do you know what the hell's going on?
Yeah, and so doesn't get to find out anything there, but he is sent David's way. And he tells him about...
Well, I don't think Daisy tells him anything.
I
think Kit realises that there's enough that he can bluff.
Yeah, which is the scene next, isn't it? Andy goes along to see David, and Kit does, sorry. And he's like, well, Andy's been at the police station. He's no commenting his way through the interview. But I know that you're involved in this, David. I know that you did something. And I know that you've been speaking to Daisy as well. And David falls for the bluff, immediately confesses to killing his child.
organising the car crash.
And apologises for what he's done.
Sorry, mate.
So, David, you fell for that one, didn't you? I thought you had your wits about you, David. I thought you were smarter than that.
Well, I think he wanted to unburden himself. He's like just happy to not have it hanging over him.
Obviously, later on in the episode, we have this big showdown between Kit and David in the lovely location shoot. I don't know where that was. It's probably the similar sort of place to the last one, wasn't it? A bit of an industrial estatey area. But meanwhile, at the Rovers, you got this scene with Mick and Lou coming in. And, Mick is really nasty piece of work, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that Lou's always been the easier one to like in the very few scenes we've seen of them. But Mick just completely disgraced himself this week, didn't he?
Lou is fun-loving, and she's definitely a little bit. She's obviously a very chavvy and supposed to be a common sort of tarty, not tarty kind of character, but
she's very
rough-as kind of character.
She's mercurial, isn't she?
Yeah, but she was likeable to me on the whole. Mick was a bit more of a clean slate. A blank slate. And he was just kind of stereotypical.
I don't know what it is about him, but he really reminds me of someone. I do not know who it is. But yeah, he's kind of like a Tim character with none of the charm that people see that I don't. But but he's like Tim was when he first came in. He's kind of like an oafish, like gruff, like very
rough,
speak as you find, kind of a man's man.
The introduction that we had to them a couple of weeks ago was that
because Tim was not, Tim was very different when he came in.
Yeah,
just to be clear.
The first story we had with Mick and Lou was that when they orchestrated their breakup and then ended up getting it on Chesney and Gemma's sofa. And I thought that the idea of that story was to say, oh, look what these like. They're always falling out of love with each other, and then they make up, and and they're all passionate when they make up. Is it some way a little bit like Jim and Liz were, but without clearly an ounce of the character there?
Well, I didn't think Corrie had it in them anymore to really make characters like Mick. But Kit is sort of like that, where he's really ambiguous and a bit dark.
Yeah, but I even at the end of that, was it the first week maybe, when Mick and Lou were knocking on George's door and they're running off, I kind of got the impression, oh, he's a fun guy. Clearly the comparisons between the Battersbys had to be drawn, and when we first heard about the Michaelis family, we thought, oh, that sounds a bit Battersby-ish actually, doesn't it? But I'm not feeling that at all now with Mick. Like, Les was... You're supposed to laugh at him, and he was obnoxious, but also kind of funny at the same time, wasn't he? You were supposed to kind of be like, oh, that Les, what's he saying?
Yeah.
He wasn't just
scary.
No, he wasn't, and that was it. He thought he was threatening. I mean, he headbutted Curly in one of the first episodes, didn't he? But it was all done in a much more kind of fun panto sort of way. But
Mick's got this vibe of like Charlie Stubbs about him, where he's got this really, or like not like he's the one. He's just one of Carla's, the one that got killed by his mum.
Frank Foster.
Yeah, like Frank Foster. With the sexual kind of grabby, nasty. There's something really sinister and unsavoury about him, and goodness knows what he would have done with Daisy.
Clearly, the Michaelis family aren't going to be a couple that everybody's going to like. But I thought that Corrie was selling them as, oh, I might find you. Some of you will love them, some of you will hate them.
Yeah, like rough around the edges, kind of like Chesney and
rough around the edges, but a heart of gold.
Yeah.
And this scene just completely blew that, for Mick at least, for me.
I know, but don't forget that not that I ever think like characters are different from people. I'm never going to say this about a person in real life, but a character like Mick can change a lot, and you can kind of forget what they've done in the past and move on from it. Again, I don't recommend doing this in real life, but for example, Daisy and the stuff that she got up with Ryan.
I was just thinking that she was a bit of a sexual predator herself once upon a time, wasn't she?
Some people said that was irredeemable at the time, and she's moved on from that actually. And Mick, like we said, I really do feel like Mick and Lou in a year's time could be a completely different set of characters. But at the
often when there are characters that have got quite strong personality traits, they just dial it right up for the opening couple of months, don't they?
Yeah.
To say, look what they're like, everybody.
Yeah, because
And then they rein it in.
the story at the beginning is we're introducing these characters, and that's the most character development you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
And then it turns into Coronation Street really doesn't focus on characters anymore. It's about plots, and so they're going to have their edges, sanded down a bit. But I don't know what's going to happen with Mick, because this was, like you said, very unexpected.
Yeah, he basically... Well, Mick and Lou come into the pub and he's having a bit of a flirt with Daisy, refusing to come home. Daisy's not into this at all. But when Jenny says, why aren't you sending him packing? Because Daisy's just in that kind of mood with Jenny at the moment. She's like, well, I'll show you. I'm gonna ask Mick round the back of the Rovers for me. And then Daniel, this is in front of Daniel as well. She's making it clear, I'm moving on and I don't care what you think. So they go round to the back of the Rovers and she realises, hang on a minute, I am a bit over my head here. Asked him to leave, and he stands up and blocks her. And you said he was scary, and he was. He was very imposing and intimidating, and he gave up massive sexual predator vibes, and that's not the sort of thing that you would get from, he's a bit of a lout, but he's got a heart of gold. No, I never thought that. I never thought that Les was a sexual predator, but he's he had his eye on Jackie Dobbs, didn't he?
Yeah, this isn't cheeky chappy territory, is it? It was
not in the slightest.
You're going to be on a register.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I'm entitled, you've led me down this path.
Yeah.
You've made me think I'm going to get something, so I want it now.
Yeah.
And it was just so scary.
And even before, like, we get the impression that both of these have got a bit of a roving eye, but they either stay faithful to each other or they do it, and then they get over it pretty quickly. Because Lou was fancying Ryan a couple of weeks ago, wasn't she? But it seems to all, up until this point, seemed to all be done in kind of soapy fun. But
it also felt like it was just, when Lou's doing it, it's like flirty fun and kind of, because I'm so gregarious.
Yeah, she just wants the attention from a hunky bloke.
This was like, I'm just a piece of crap, misogynist who's going to use women for whatever I want. And I'm strong, so I can do it, and you can't stop me.
I really am wondering.
And the fact that she had a broken arm as well, let's factor that in.
Yeah. I'm wondering whether the idea is that Lou's going to stay on the street.
Yeah, I wonder that myself. I wonder
won't
if
be here for
much
longer. Yeah, it really feels like he could be a shelf life character. I'm almost at a stage now where I don't want to like him.
It, like I said before, it's very complicated on Coronation Street because we're asked to forgive a lot of things of characters that are actually, fairly awful. You've got white supremacists, you've got sexual abusers, you've got all kinds of strange people. David pushes his mum down the stairs. Now he's a lovable scamp. There's a scene later where he and Kit face off against each other, and Kit's supposed to be the villain and David's like the hero. But David's done far more violent and unhinged things in his life than Kit has, and Kit's pretty bad as it is.
I think sometimes the difference is, you get these villainish characters, and whether or not David's a villain is a matter of opinion. But people, if you got your Les Battersby's, you got your Mike Baldwins, and you can see that they're doing morally wrong stuff. But if it's played well, the viewers kind of going along with it, aren't they? Going, oh yeah, Mike, you screw him out of that money. And nobody was watching Mick during this scene going, oh yeah, go on, get her to drop her drawers, Mick. Go on, get in there, my son.
Well, it's funny because they know this is like the last taboo, isn't it? What he was intending with Daisy. Like, we've seen murderers and serial killers and Corrie, and we're like, yeah, hit him.
Go on, Phelan.
Stab him, like hit him on the head with a stapler or a hell punch. Go on, do it. Like, it's so far removed from our lives that it's kind of like it's still like a fantasy,
like entertainment on a Friday night.
But unfortunately, the same way as Daisy's baby loss is a horrible real part of many people's lives, this kind of situation is disgustingly relevant to many people, and so it's not forgivable, and it's not something that I think a lot of people are going to move on from.
No, but I think Corrie's probably going to try and make us, because
I don't know.
I think that they are painting them as kind of a bit of a fun but a bit rough
I
character, and
remember
I think
when-
they put him too much too far.
I
But
don't
this-
think you can. I genuinely don't see how anyone can be like, oh, it's just a I don't know. It
No,
was
it
just so
wasn't a
grim
misunderstanding.
and it was so scary. What would he have done if Daniel had not walked in?
The
Because that's
other-
what happens.
Daniel
in.
walks in and he puts a stop to it. The thing that I'm still wondering about Mick and Lou as well, I know we spend a lot of time talking about Mick and Lou, but hey, they're a new family, is when's Chesney going to find out about the van? This couple have been on the show for what, a month now? 5-6 weeks? I don't know, I've lost track. And we know that Mick knows that Chesney was the one who screwed up his van, but still after all this time, Chesney's got no idea, and I don't think the viewers are that interested in it. It's
No, you're right. I
peculiar
don't think we can.
That it's not come out now, because
What's
nobody's
the
going to go,
payoff?
oh no, Chesney knows now. It's like,
Yeah,
it'll
what's
just
the
be
payoff
at
going to
last.
be?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what happened with Shona and David, where we knew that Shona knew David, and there was a mystery. There's no mystery. There's no mystery here to Mick being the van man.
No.
Who cares?
Well, yeah, what are the consequences of that? Nothing really. Are they just...
There's no payoff for it taking a long time.
What they should have done, I think,
So far.
is to have built up a friendship between Gemma and Lou, so that when it comes out,
Maybe
at
they
least.
will.
But they
Not yet,
haven't,
they
have
haven't. Not
they?
yet, they haven't.
They brought Lou in as a bit of a friend to Gemma, but then they've not shown them like having girly nights out together. They've not shown them, getting sozzled together. They've not shown them having all those bonding moments.
Sometimes it feels like Coronation Street is like you've been invited to a kids' party to watch a juggler, and the juggler starts off and he's got 3 balls and he's, wow, so cool. And then he gets another 2 and he's like, wow, look, he's juggling 5 balls in the air at once, right? And then he brings out like a case of like 20 balls, and you're like, how is he going to do this? And instead of juggling 5 balls at once, he just puts down 5 and takes 5 out of the box and then swaps all the way through.
Yeah.
And he only ever does 5 at once, but he keeps putting them down, and then you forget the ball's there, and then when he brings the ball back out, you're like, oh, you remember that red one? Yeah, but I can't remember why I cared about it now.
Yeah, no, I like that analogy. And one of the balls maybe rolls under the table.
And sometimes they throw a ball at your face, and if you don't like it, it's your fault.
Right. So yeah, Daniel comes in and he saves the day basically.
Well, he
on this.
interrupts whatever, and kind of Mick goes off with the fleeing, doesn't he?
Yeah. So meanwhile, you got Kit and David and all their action. He drives them up to the police station and says, and Kit's like, your family's trash, David. And David fights back, saying, look at your chavvy family. You got Bernie as a mum. You're just a jumped up copper. And I think again, still Bernie this week has got seemingly no idea that she's lost a grandchild, has she? Has Kit just not told her this? I don't know. It seems like there's a key
It's funny
because
because he confided in Gemma, but not Bernie.
Anyway,
Well, no, because you think Kit has led David to believe that he's arresting him for what his part in this accident. So he drives him to the police station. They have this little discussion, and David seems to kind of get under Kit's skin. And so instead of taking him into the police station, Kit drives off in the car with him and takes him to an industrial estate with a warehouse with the slowest rolling door in the entire universe.
I don't remember that.
And it's hilarious because this door was like, he presses a button and the door slowly starts to go up, and it was so slow, and they were having a discussion. I'm like, Kit is so tall, how long are we going to have to wait for this door to be high enough for him to get in? But eventually he ducks under.
He does a bit of scare tactics on David, doesn't he? And there is a bit of a height difference, David, bless him. I can't remember what the line was, but Kit says something about, did you remember what it was? He said something about size or big and small or something, and David's like, is this a height joke again? But
there was some funny lines.
He duffs him up. He kind of faux congratulates him for giving Harvey what he wants, and I was like, oh, well done, you've appeased the criminal, and but now because of this my kid's dead. So he drags David into this lockup, pushes him onto a sack, and says, David, you played the hero, you jumped in front of a car as some kind of noble act, but did you think how Max would feel? Did you? Lily, Shona. Kit's actually talking a lot of sense here. This was us on the podcast last week, wasn't it? Saying David's clearly not put any thought into this. It's an utterly bonkers plan.
What do we think about this? This is weird because he is the voice of reason here. But
Yet
all
at the
of
same
this is
time
stuff,
being very, very dodgy copper territory.
all of this is stuff that David really should have thought of himself, and I don't know how I feel about him needing an outside influence to tell him this was a stupid idea. I really wish he'd come to this conclusion himself. I don't understand why he didn't know this already.
I know. Well, it gets heightened, but when there's a few more trips back to the pub, because this storyline is still kind of the same storyline with Daisy and Daniel realising that their relationship is pretty irreparable at this point. And she tells them
they
that
love
she
each other.
Yeah, but she's like, I can't do this.
Daniel says, I love you, and Daisy says, we can't be together.
Yeah. Anyway, so David and Kit kind of, the tension dies down a bit later on, and they're sitting on a sack inside this lockup. And it seems to be that Kit's letting him off the hook. He says, I'm giving you a chance now, David. Don't mess it up. I'm sorry for sleeping with your wife. And David's like, Kit, sorry for killing your baby. And that's it.
That was such a weird line. I know I saw loads of people saying that line was weird, and it was really weird. It was weird.
Would this be enough? I mean, would it be better for the grudge to continue? Is it better that they let bygones be bygones? And would they? Like, how much? I don't know whether it's harsh to say it, but how much did Kit care that his baby was dead? Because I knew that he wanted it, kind of, but I don't think he was as invested as being a father as Daisy was. Clearly it's affected Daisy an awful lot more. Maybe at the end of the day, you know, he probably wouldn't admit it to anyone, certainly not in Daisy's presence. Maybe Kit's thinking, maybe that's a relief, that's off the hook. I didn't want to be sharing a baby with Daisy. And so it's easy for him to forgive David.
Kit is the kind of guy who, although he's a police officer, he's not obviously he doesn't care about the rules. But he does care about justice, which is weird to say about Kit because he very often seems to work contrary to that. But if you watch what he does, it's fascinating actually, the difference between him and Lisa, because Lisa will always go by the book and sometimes doesn't get justice because of it, because of the way the rules work and because of how you're limited, and if you can't get evidence, and you know things take a long time, and you know what she said to Amy about her date rape stuff, they couldn't do anything about it. Kit, he cares about justice so much that he will drive David to an industrial estate, beat him up, and then it's like he's gotten some kind of justice out of him, and he's satisfied, I think, that he's broken David and got an apology out of him and made him realise what he's done. And I think he knows David's a family man, and that all that stuff that he said to him about his family is going to get under his skin.
Yeah.
So it's really weird because they both obviously care about getting justice, but Kit takes so many risks to get there.
Yeah. Anyway, so he lets David go. David gets back to the flat. He just needs a shower. He's had a bit of a rough day, as David.
Yeah.
And then it ends with a lovely little phone call for Max, who this was his final scene, wasn't it? Max is gone.
You might be
He's
surprised.
Left Coronation Street. You might be surprised to hear this. I don't know. Depends how
if you avoid spoilers,
much you've seen on the internet.
You might be very
media.
shocked to hear that Max's final scene was Wednesday.
Where is he? Is it Durham? He's been sent off.
Apparently, County Durham is just an impossible place to get to, even though it's about 2.5 hours from Manchester in the car, and we know that David has a car. Apparently, you might as well just forget he exists.
Yeah, Max is telling David, I'm fine, you know, I brought this on myself. Harvey's lot haven't been after me. I'm going to be all right. And there's a lovely little moment where Lily snatches the phone away from David and has this little gossiping session with Max, doesn't it? But then he eventually gets the phone back, and Max is just saying, look, I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to get through it. It's 6 years, was it? 6.5 years?
6.5.
It's fine.
I love you.
I loved it. David was kind of welling up. Jack P. Shepherd is always amazing at stuff like that, and he's like, I love you. I love your son. I love you, Max. And I turned and said to you, oh, Max is going to say, I love you, Dad. And he did. He did. Phone call ends, and Max just kind of looks kind of pretty sad. The camera pulls away. He's got the bars in front of him, and Yeah, Tara Chuck. End for Max.
Well, we had a discussion this week, and you weren't completely convinced by my argument, but I am.
Of course you are.
That I don't think Coronation Street does endings very well anymore. Because this was Max's ending, and this is the end of the Harvey storyline.
Hopefully.
And it turns out that you literally could have just given him the 40 grand and he would go away. And so they did it, and he did. Even though he's been given money before and carried on coming at him, there's no reason that he would stop,
He's probably really bored in prison.
And just because Max...
Taunting the Platts is probably like sports to him.
Yeah, just because Max is no longer in danger from Harvey doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park to do 6.5 years in prison.
No. But Max was putting on a brave face because he has matured, and in some ways he is more mature than David, and he looked pretty
knocked.
And pretty narked at the end of the episode that he was in prison.
Well, it was
but
devastated.
I think telling David I'm going to be fine was just to try and
But
make his dad feel better.
That's not an exit storyline to me.
It was a disappointing ending, but I suppose the climax of Max's story was the fire, wasn't it? And what we've been seeing after that is just the necessary
afterwards.
Would you have preferred it if Max had died in the fire?
No, I maintain that Corrie cannot really end a story very well anymore. And I used to really like it when a story would evolve into something else. Like, one of the things I liked the most, I really liked about the tram crash episode, the anniversary big episode, was that it was a climactic, incredible, amazing stunt, but it turned into like 5 different storylines. And that was amazing. It kicked off so many things, as well as being a great kind of finale for some other storylines. But it feels like Corrie just turns into another story all the time, and you don't feel like you've got a satisfactory ending, because they kind of Stephen King it a bit. Stephen King's crap at endings too. Like, we've had Harvey breathing down David's neck for months, years even. I don't even know at this point, because I lose the will to count. But at the very end of it, David has no reason to never talk to Max again, but we're not going to see Max on screen anymore because the stories that he's involved in is over, and they've the characters left. So, but does anybody feel as though that episode on Wednesday where Max is like, I love you, Dad, that's the end, I'm crying in prison, did you feel like that was a natural, climactic, satisfying ending to a saga about tedious money loaning? Or are we now launching into another story about what happened to Carla as well? There's so many loose ends. It just feels like, and if you go back and you think about some of the really big stories in Corrie, how many of them feel like they have a natural climax, and then it kind of there's still like a load of stuff after that kind of limps to the finish line. Like, even the fire stuff, it kind of would have been better if Max had died in the fire. I don't want to lose Paddy Beaver. I think he's great. I think Max is an important legacy character because he's a Platt. But wouldn't it not have been a more natural ending point or climax for that story to have had Max die in the fire and then Harvey be like, oh well, haha, got ya?
Maybe.
I just think that there are so many points where I can look at a story and go, oh, that kind of ended, I guess. How many times on this podcast have we said, oh, I guess that's the end of that? That exact phrase, we've used that exact phrase so many times at the end of so many stories that have been the be all and end all and the main story of a week. Oh, I guess that's the end of that.
I know what you mean. I would be really interested to know how many people went into Wednesday's episode, A, not knowing that was Max's last episode, B, not knowing that Max was leaving at all, because there's some people were able to avoid spoilers for that, I'm sure, and then were like surprised when they found out on social media afterwards.
But can I say that this is like a bad part of Coronation Street, that you kind of have to rely on spoilers to make sense of what the story is, because I'm sorry, but the story makes no sense without the context, the extraneous context that Paddy Beaver's left Coronation Street. if you don't have that extra knowledge, when you're watching it, there was nothing about that and anything part of that story that made you go, that's the conclusion of this story. That's the end of that character.
Clearly locking someone up is a bit of an ending, isn't it?
No, it's not anymore, because they follow people into prison. There's a storyline going on with another character in prison at the moment. There's absolutely no reason for anybody who doesn't know any of the extra stuff outside of Coronation Street to have looked at that episode and gone, that's the last time I'm ever going to see Max. Because they follow people into prison all the time.
They do, but mostly if it's Highfield prison. Maybe the fact that they moved him away to
I don't think people
Durham.
understand the difference. I don't think it's significant enough for you to say, I've conclusively ended this storyline and nobody needs to know anything more about it.
Well, I'm disappointed by this. I think that Paddy was fab.
I don't know why they gave him 6.5 years.
Oh, that's how long that's.
Oh, whatever. They don't care about that normally.
I'd like to think that we'll get him back at some point. Paddy hasn't, he did his exit video on social media, but as far as I know, he's not been doing much in terms of press or publicity or interviews or anything like that. So I don't know whether he just wants to go away as a little break. If he were to come back, in 6 years' time, I would hope that if he's not coming back, they might at least recognise, Max has moved to whatever location. But yeah, I think that he's done a really good job of turning the character who he was.
It's a complicated. He
became he was a bit of a nothing character. He was generic, fairly kind of cute and sweet Coronation Street boy, and then they gave him some good stuff to do. And lots of people didn't enjoy the far right story. People weren't convinced that he'd changed his ways, but as the years went on, I did grow to have a bit of a soft spot for him. Paddy Beaver himself is lovely, which always helps me like a character more. Yeah, I was really disappointed to hear that he was leaving.
Yeah, me too.
When we found out,
and I was just really worried that he would die. I'm glad he didn't die.
I'm really glad he didn't die. I wasn't expecting, so with some characters, you get a feeling like, maybe it is, the end for them, or a feeling like they've got a bit of a shelf life, or they've been disappearing. We've not seen very much of them on the street recently, so that's okay that he's going to go. But with him, it's like that. I didn't see it coming at all.
No, I know.
When we found out,
especially because of what happened with Joel and Lauren and him, saying I'm gonna take the rap, and then he didn't. And
you pointed out to me the other day, like, what's going on? What's going to happen now with Lauren? Lauren has got even less reason to be on the street now Max isn't there. She's bringing up this baby Frankie, who, does he still need a donor for marrow? I don't know. But yeah, Max was setting himself up to have this lovely life with Lauren, and
she's got no support system.
Was she even in it this week? I don't even think that we saw her.
So why has she not said goodbye to Max? Can you see my point?
Yeah.
At the very least, we should have had a more obvious visual symbol that Max was leaving the show. Even if it was as cheesy rubbish as a door, a jail cell closing on his face. It should have been him getting in a van and being like, look, Dad, I'm not gonna get in touch with you anymore because I want a fresh start here and I don't want anyone to know I've got links with Harvey and you.
I still thought it was a really nice scene. I thought the phone call was lovely.
It was fine, but it wasn't an exit.
No. Anyway, that's the end of Max.
It was like the end of a chapter.
See you in half a decade.
It wasn't, you would never know.
Right, Friday's episode comes round. This is when these two storylines definitely go off in very, very different directions. Daisy's in the cafe and the McAllis family, the couple, two of them. There's no idea whether I'll ever see the kids, apart from Brody, who possibly is. Anyway, they're all over each other in the cafe, and Daisy is not very pleased with this. Meanwhile, you got David and Sarah, Louise and Lily in the Red Bank apartment. Sarah's ironing a denim skirt.
That wound me up.
More than anything else this week, more than Max's exit, more than just the easy ending of the David and Kit story. Sarah Louise ironing a denim skirt was it for you, wasn't it? But anyway, they're all kind of having happy family times, but as the episode goes on, we rejoin David's notion that he just wants to get back to normality. Sarah says, "Look, can can you get Lily to pack away her stuff, because I want to teach Harry good lessons about tidying up. And David's like, oh, maybe it's time for us to go. So he heads over to the salon and asks Audrey if they can move into Grasmere Drive together. And she's like, oh, not really sure about this. What did you think about Audrey? To be honest, Audrey should have probably been the one to have offered her massive house beforehand, you know.
Well, I think we even said this before. Why are they living with Sarah? It's the same as George and his giant mansion.
Yeah. Audrey's there knocking about this huge well, it's not that huge actually, is it? It's a house. It's just in a posh area. I suppose she should be allowed to have her piece in her autumn years if she wanted to, but...
Well, I feel I've got strong opinions about people telling people to move out of their houses. I just think it's mean. I know there's a housing crisis, but it's not because old people are living in houses. It's because the government won't build new ones. And it doesn't help when Max goes around burning them down.
This is true.
I tell you what they need to do is not build... whatever it is, number 8, what is it?
Yeah.
Not build that, they need to build a block of flats.
Yeah. Mick comes to the pub again. He's still in a bit of a leery mood, and he's demanding a bottle of beer from Daisy, and he's like, oh, I don't care what I did yesterday, just don't tell my wife. And she's like, well, I don't want anyone to find out about it either, because it just makes me sick to think about it. And he starts getting all nasty again and calling her a slapper or whatnot. Jenny takes the opportunity to step in and tell him to sling his hook. And then he's like, oh, you're both a joke, and he leaves. Daisy says, I don't need you to help me, Jenny. I'm fine by myself, actually. Just bog off. So Jenny's like really upset by this. She doesn't want there to be this air between them, this bad air, and she has a bit of a chat with Rita, which was nice. And Rita says, look, Daisy's gonna come back eventually, just give her time. I mean, she is true at the end of the episode, and it was all sorted, so
good.
I think Rita willed this into existence, I guess, with her magical mystical old lady powers or something. At the pub later, Mick and Lou are there back again, and Daisy just straight away tells her about what Mick did to her yesterday, coming on to her, which I thought was great. I'm glad she didn't hold on to that. She's just dropping bombs all over the place, a bit like Leanne was a few months ago. Lou is very defensive. Did you think there was any kind of saving face here from Lou? Does she actually believe that Mick was doing this and just doesn't want to admit it in public, or does she think that Mick is a saint and wouldn't ever possibly do this?
Well, you see, she confronted him.
You must know what he's like.
She confronted him about his behaviour before when he said that she said that he was responsible for them having to move the last time because everyone hated them because of his behaviour. I'm pretty sure she kind of said, I want a fresh start here. I don't want everyone to hate us like they did before. Now, when she said that, I thought they were talking about antisocial behaviour, not whatever the hell Mick was getting up to.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult, but it depends on whether she's in a coercive relationship. I don't know if Corey's going down that route, but there are a lot of women who cannot leave relationships because they're completely dependent on someone like Mick who, financially, that she would need his support. She can't imagine living without him, but she doesn't necessarily wouldn't choose to live with him.
I do get the impression that they're quite loyal to each other. I mean, not in a... Clearly they are... They don't see anything wrong with being very flirty with other people. But I think that they will always... It seems like they'll always go back to each other. And I'm just thinking of like the picture of them, the publicity shot of them with their arm around each other. It feels like they're kind of joined at the hip somewhat. I'd like to imagine that back at home, Lou would have said to Mick, how dare you? And kind of torn a strip off him. But she just didn't want to admit it in public because she doesn't want to, I don't know, damage the brand of the Michaelis in public.
It's like they're a really toxic team, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like she's got... She doesn't have anyone else, and so she's got to stick with him, but she can't.
Yeah.
She knows that there's something sinister about it.
I'd like to see her step away from him, maybe. Maybe you will soften him, I don't know. I love the scene that we got later on in the bistro with, because this comes next chronologically, where we had Audrey and Rita and Evelyn sitting down together. That was lovely, wasn't it? Just there was a bit of plot discussion there, but these three golden ladies, golden girls of Coronation Street, sort of chewing the cud and just talking about each other's storylines was lovely. Jenny, meanwhile, back at the pub, is jumping in to threaten Lou because Lou's almost ready to jump over the bar and duff Daisy up, and Jenny's like, well, what did she say? She threatens to bash her with something and says they'll be picking your teeth out of the dartboard if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And then she says, look, Mick was all over Daisy like a Randy Retriever yesterday, and then they strop home again. Whether this was for Lou to properly have it out with Mick, I don't know, or whether she still believed him. I guess we'll
find out.
Maybe we'll find out, but will we ever get to see a home scene of them? I don't know. Audrey has decided on a plan. She wants to sell Grasmere Drive, shocker, legacy house. It was like the early 90s that she bought this place. So she's been there. This has been a long time that Grasmere Drive has been a name with a lot of weight in Coronation Street. But yeah, she's going to sell it up, buy number 8. This is going to be David's inheritance. And then she's just going to have to downsize. Yeah, exactly. She says, all I need now is my family. That's all that matters to me. What's your reaction to Grasmere Drive finally being cut out of Coronation Street after all this time? Do you care? Is this Kate Brooks' boldest move yet?
It's interesting because I wonder if we'll ever see it again, because we know that they've moved it. The location moved.
Yeah.
The external location because they moved it somewhere else. And I wonder if they just thought this just cut, knock it in the head.
I think so. We've not
the existing original is not being used,
but we've not seen even the news. We've not seen her there for years, and Audrey's been. I suppose it makes sense for a character played by an actress who can't do that many episodes in a year to have her off the street, and then you don't need to explain where's Audrey. But yeah, maybe it is just another way of saying, let's get everyone living in on the street because we want to make sure we only have to film on the street for budgetary reasons.
Well, also it's kind of shoring up the plats a bit more, isn't it? Because now Gail's gone, and Audrey used to kind of float in and out, like a cloud. But now she's going to have a bit more of a permanent base there, and they're not going to have to explain, because they used to have to go explain. Oh, Gran's.
Why's Gran come round? But
why did they have to explain that? Because she owns the salon.
Yeah, that's true. Well, basically later on she tells them both that she's actually decided to move into the annex, and I love David's expression when he finds this out.
Yeah, because he didn't know that she was.
No.
She said she was going to downsize and give them the money, but she didn't say that she was also going to live with David.
So that was a fun little.
It's funny because David's finally got rid of his mum. And now he's got his gran moving in with him. Yeah,
David's spitting his wine out after they've just done a toast. That was funny. And then that was basically it that's going on there. I'm happy enough with Audrey. I think it's a really good
idea to get Audrey moving in with the plants.
I did wonder whether she would be moving into Yasmin's house and just being a neighbour to the flats. Plats, sorry. I can imagine them even like knocking through.
Yeah.
A bit like how Rita had a door between her house, her flat, and Alex's flat back in the 90s, having a little conjoining door there. But, oh well. Daisy and Jenny finally thrash it out later, and Daisy apologises because finally this defence that Jenny put up against Lou was enough for Daisy to say, okay, you have got my back, it's fine. And she knows she's not coping at all with this. She needs Jenny. She can't stay strong indefinitely when she's going through this incredibly traumatic experience, and they have a lovely little scene on the sofa. Jenny describes Daniel and Daisy as being like Kermit and Miss Piggy, and she says, look, love like this doesn't come along very often. Get yourself over there and sort yourselves out. So she does. Daisy turns up with a bottle of wine, and I loved how her defences were down, and she just
wanted comfort.
She just wanted comfort. She wanted Daniel back. She didn't have a face full of makeup when she goes to see Daniel. She's just, here I am, laid bare. I'm fed up of fighting. Jenny's right. Let's get back together.
She's broken.
Can we take it slow? Yeah, I'm a broken woman, and can you help fix me, Daniel? So he does.
Daniel would love nothing more.
Yeah.
Sounds like exactly the sort of thing that he'd like.
A little project for him.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is that story, isn't it? So very nice that those two are back together again. It's not going to last, is it? And yeah, Mick and Lou. I'm not too sure about whether I want to see much more of them, but I don't think that matters because we're going to anyway. Anything else to add to that story? I think
No.
You tell me about the Cassie story.
Let me tell you about the most exciting move to Southampton since
Oh,
Alec
yes.
Gilroy.
Tommy, we're getting Tommy Orpington, aren't we?
We've got so many
He's coming
people.
down here to help coach people football.
I said I was
Maybe you
talking.
can teach me. I've got no idea.
I was talking to you, wasn't I? On was it Wednesday? He said he was moving to Southampton.
Yeah.
About what is Coronation Street's obsession with people moving to Southampton, and I decided it's probably because it just sounds like as far away as you can get. It's absolutely describes where the location of this place
in the
is
south.
compared to Manchester. It is in the south. It is Southampton. This is the most south of all the Hamptons, and you really it would take you a long time to get there.
Yeah, but it's true. Like the Websters moved to Southampton, didn't they? Debbie and Bill have been there.
I don't think there are many.
Did Christine Hardman move to Southampton, or was that just the actress that came here? I can't remember. Peter's been down in Southampton, Portsmouth way. For a little bit.
I just don't think there are many places.
Alec Gilroy moved to Southampton.
There are not many places, geographically speaking, that describe quite as easily where they are. Like, even Northampton's not actually in the north. Like, Land's End you could probably get away with, but nobody lives there. So if you want to say somebody is moving really far away as you could possibly get, you say they're going to Southampton.
I just think it's a nice
I love
nod
it.
to us. To be
Every
honest.
time they say it, I'm like, yay, we got another
We're
one.
getting quite a collection here, aren't we? I mean, I wasn't expecting to see Tommy Orpington ever again on the streets.
No.
I mean, when he strolled up into the Rovers on Wednesday, I was like, oh.
When he turned
He's
up
back again.
and he was looking worried, I said, is this going to be the last time we ever see Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he and Max both get their final episode together.
Well, I mean, we got 3 exits this week and
Yeah.
and 2 location changes because we got Max, Yasmin, which we'll get to, and Tommy Orpington leaving. We've got Tracy moving into number 1, and we've got Audrey saying she wants to move into number 8.
Yeah.
So how about that?
All change for the spring.
Let me tell you what happened in this storyline. On Wednesday, Tracy is still fretting about Ken, and she's trying to take it upon herself to sort of be his carer, and Steve points out that she can't really do this. Like she doesn't even live locally, and she's not really she's not the most caring of people.
No.
So she's not very good at it. But Tracy doesn't want to ship it out again because she doesn't trust anybody. Meanwhile, Cassie is trying to find somewhere to live because she's got no money, she's got no friends, she hasn't got anywhere to go.
Week.
And so she spies a camping set outside the charity shop in the precinct. She nabs it and walks off. So she's got a backup plan. So meanwhile, Tracy's in the pub. She's going through this list of activities that Ken wants to do. And she's like, what the hell is an immersive art experience? She's not impressed by any of this. Cassie comes in and she wants a job working in the Rovers, and Jenny just shuts her down immediately.
I think I'd really, really love to see Cassie working in the Rovers.
Cassie would be fabulous because she'd be so dismissive and rude when she didn't like somebody, and it'd be great.
Yeah. And she can glam up nicely, can't she?
Yeah.
I think that
she'd be a really good addition.
I just wonder, like, we didn't really need that little
Interesting.
moment. I wonder if it was laying the foundations or planting
Yeah,
the
because
seed
she didn't go
in
anywhere
people's...
else. She
No.
could have literally gone to any of the businesses and asked for a job.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Was that
I don't
a
think.
hint?
Yeah.
I don't know. Right, so no vacancies. Tommy comes in, wants a word with Tracy, and tells her that he is going as far away as it's possible to physically get. He's going to Southampton, and that's even worse than Spain, because Tracy does not want to move there, and she's sort of saying to him, well, you've got to choose between me and football, because he's doing this coaching job.
Bow.
And she says, no, I don't want to go, and I need you to pick.
I quite like that they had some of the kids. There was
Yeah.
Jake and was it Joseph kicking a ball
right
around
as-
in the ginnel during this, and
As she gives him this ultimatum, what do you care about more, me or football? The 2 lads sort of come up and go, wow, you're Tommy Orpington, you're a famous footballist. And he's like, yes, I am. Tracy, I cannot pick you over football, because where would I get my adoration from small children? Nobody cares that I'm dating you, but they do care I was a footballist. So he says that I've already taken the job, I pick football.
This was harsh, wasn't it? I mean, obviously the main problem with this relationship is we've seen so little of it. These two have been dating for It's a year now, isn't it? It's a year that this started, but so much of it has happened off screen or in Spain or what have you. I don't think that any viewers were saying, "Oh, my heart's breaking for them. This couple were made for each other."
No one's heartbroken that Tommy is not dating Tracy anymore, unfortunately.
No,
although he's
but
a really fun character.
I'd like to have the impression that they were really into each other and they were right for each other, but him deciding to take this job without even consulting her first just show how little he thinks of her.
Well, she said that she moved to Spain for him. I don't think it's really without the realm of possibility that she might move to Southampton.
No, but he should...
You still speak English here.
He should have said something.
Of course.
He absolutely should.
Anyway,
he's tired of her. I mean, maybe he's kind of picking up vibes that she's...
Well, he's not crying either.
She's spending a lot more time back in Weatherfield now than she was, last summer, for example. Maybe he's thinking that she's, sniffing around Steve again, or she doesn't want...
I don't think there's much analysis to be made here out of this relationship, and we're never going to see Tommy again, I don't think, which is sad. But Cassie's overhearing this conversation and laughs at Tracy for kind of getting dumped, really. And Tracy says, "Drop dead, you gross junkie," which is past her. Steve sees Cassie in the cafe and she's not got any food, so he pays for her to have some food, and she kind of lets him know she hasn't got anywhere to go, and Tyrone won't let her in. But she goes back and tries to talk to Tyrone again, and she says, "I'm never going to stop trying to make amends with you." And Tracy turns up again at this point and laughs at her. And now Cassie's completely out of options. She's got no choice but to take her camping set her little
sleeping bag and blanket,
and go and sleep in Villain's Alley.
Yeah.
She didn't want to go to Scully's Alley because she was worried that she might get attacked, but Villain's Alley is unoccupied.
Absolutely fine. I'm a little bit surprised that Tyrone's being so resistant to this, because he's a bit of a soft one, isn't he? I was kind of thinking we might get a few weeks without the storyline, which we have, and then when she came back, he would roll over a bit more easily. But he's really standing his ground, isn't he?
A lot of what they're doing, a lot of what Viz and Tyrone seem to be saying is that Cassie's harmed their standing in the community.
Well, I mean, yeah. I know that not many people will say you're guilty by association, but...
No, in Coronation Street they would, but I'm sure, I would think that, they've both risked, Viz and Tyrone have both risked a lot more for their family than... It's so funny how low stakes it is. It feels that Cassie tried to kill Ken Barlow.
Yeah.
It feels like it's no big deal, but it is, of course, one of the biggest deals ever. But we knew that he was never in danger, so it's really hard to kind of fully grasp how serious this is, because it's like, oh, it was just a bit of fun.
This is quite funny, because I was watching an interview with Claire Sweeney today, and she talked about when Kate Brooks gave her this story, and she'd been saying, oh, well, Cassie came in as a bit of a skank, but they had a redemption arc for her and things were looking good for her. And then she said, and I saw in the script one day that I was going to pinch a tenner from Ken, and she was like, what's going on here? I don't want to be a bad guy. I know what happens to bad guys on Coronation Street. What's going on? And she goes to Kate, and Kate says, well, it's fine. It's necessary, because obviously you're going to start poisoning Ken soon. And she's like, what? I'm going to poison Ken Barlow, Coronation Street Institution? And Kate said, oh yeah, but it's going to be very fun in camp.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the attitude that Coronation Street had about this storyline. And it kind of was, but lots of people I know online didn't like that and thought that this isn't something to make fun of.
It's really hard. So this is okay, so here we go. Here's Coronation Street having a real problem, because when they tried to do a camp story, people turn it into an issue story. I do feel like they brought it on themselves to a certain extent by having so many issue storylines going on. But we said this before, like with Shona as well. Where do you draw the line between this is just a bit of fun and this is an issues-based storyline? Because I think Coronation Street is lucky in that lots of their committed viewers like us are willing to throw ourselves into earnestly absorbing a story if it's supposed to be an issue story. But it's never really that apparent at the beginning of a story whether this is just a stupid little side quest or whether we're actually supposed to care and like get invested. Like Toya's Toya's cancer. Was that an issue story, or was it just a little side quest so that she could hook up with Nick? I still don't really know.
I didn't watch this story thinking that this is serious.
No, this felt like a soap.
Yeah, it did. It felt very low stakes, even though it was Ken. Obviously, I knew that they weren't going to kill Ken off with this, so I was able to distance myself and go, oh, look at the drama, when's she going to get caught? And I do really, really rate Claire Sweeney, and Cassie's been a character that I've been back and forth with a little bit. But yeah, I'm very much able to forgive her, willing to forgive her, and when she was snuggled up in the alley at the end of Wednesday's and tonight's episode, I'm properly feeling for her. But there's definitely a contingent of Corrie fans out there that
hate her,
that absolutely hate
Never
her and say
her.
that she does not deserve any of our forgiveness, and they're totally on Team Tracy, calling her a gross skank. Was it Wednesday? And on Friday we get the when Tracy's describing her perfume as being lime, basil and bin juice. That was quite funny. But yeah, I'm definitely in Team Poor Cassie, and I know that that's maybe a small team, but I don't care.
Yeah,
this story for me was the one that I was most invested in this week, and I think part of it is still lingering from the great episode. When was it? 3 weeks ago, maybe, when Ken finds out Cassie. I'm still very much on a roll here.
Ken opening his eyes
when
she snuck off was absolute pure camp.
Yeah. And I think it was because it was kind of camp, and it was kind of soapy, and I didn't feel that it was an issue story, and I could just sit back and enjoy it, and it wasn't angsty, you know?
Yeah, that's what I want out of a soap. I really don't need that many issues, as many as they give us. And I do recognise it is a delicate balancing act. And I do think Coronation Street is really ambitious, and, you know, I laud them for trying to balance so many things. And it's an impossible task, of course, to get everything right all the time. I just think, look how well you do these silly side quests, and let's have more of that.
Well, I think if you want any more evidence that we're not supposed to take this as seriously as, I don't know, Paul's dying of MND, you had Evelyn pop back in Friday's episode just to add that proper classic Corrie feel.
Yeah, she doesn't. She comes back on the tram. She doesn't.
It's funny because I was just going to say that it was always a bit of a treat when Evelyn turned up in a scene. But now it's even more so, isn't it?
Yeah, because
before it's like, oh, I wonder whether Evelyn's going to be in this. And now that's nice, she's in this episode. But now it's like, oh, Evelyn's back. And now she's going to go away again. And I think every time that Evelyn appears, it's going to be hey, it's Evelyn. And I don't think you get that with any character, because you know that any episode, there is the potential for somebody to come back. But this character that's now living off screen, and we know that Maureen Lipman is kind of semi-retired from Coronation Street. It's just a lovely little treat.
It was nice.
Yeah.
So she doesn't see Cassie in the Guinness as she's walking past. She goes straight to where's she go? I don't even know.
She goes to Tyrone's, doesn't she?
She goes to Tyrone's. But before then, Tracy goes to Steve and tells her that she and Tommy have split up, and she's trying to rise above it, but she doesn't want to talk about it. And Steve tells Tracy that Ken is gone to the lakes to clear his head with some Keats and Wordsworth. You've written Cats, which is like he's gone with a load of drugs and some poetry.
Cassie's like, I'm going to definitely follow after you, Kenny. We share
She's
them.
like, it'd be like old times, Ken. We're both high on drugs. Right. Anyway, so Evelyn goes and Viz and Tyrone are, what's the word? Dancing around, not telling her what's happened, and eventually she blurts out, how long are you going to give me small talk until you tell me Cassie's been trying to poison Ken Barlow?
Yeah. Well, did you think of Evelyn's new look tonight, by the way?
It was fun, wasn't it? Because she's like, I've got no time to do my hair, I've got
new glasses, new hair,
I've got a job, I wonder if she's just said to them, I'm not sitting in the chair and getting my hair done every time. Just give me a hat.
I'd really like this year for there to be a proper Dobbs storyline again, because it's felt like, you know, we had a bit of the story with Elena and Doran last year, didn't we? But they've not had a really meaty story to get their teeth into since probably the original Elena affair story. And just seeing them in little bits and pieces like this just reminds me how much I love them as a couple. And I want to see more. So this is nice stuff.
Tracy decides to because she sees Cassie's around again, and she goes to the police station and has a go at Craig and asks him, why is this woman still walking the streets? And Craig says, well, Ken's not complained about it, so there's nothing we can do.
He just wanted to have his lunch.
Debbie sees Tracy in the Ginnell with a lad doing some kind of dodgy dealings, and she sort of clocks it, but she doesn't do anything about it.
I was wondering throughout most of the episode what's the deal with Debbie there, because she only appears again at the end of the episode, doesn't she, where she's like, I didn't see you with anyone. So.
I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Tracy invites Cassie around to the house, and Cassie is obviously so desperate that she knows this could be a trap, but she's going to walk into it because there might be something in it for her. She's got nothing to lose.
It really looked like they'd raided Cassie's old wardrobe today, wasn't it? Because when she came into the show, and all the publicity pictures of her with a baseball cap and her skanked up face and the ratty hair, it was like right back to that again. She's obviously glammed up a lot more since then. But I, as I said before, this is very much fair play to Claire Sweeney, who is very glam in real life, that she's perfectly happy to be perfectly happy to
look like a skank. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, basically.
Well done.
Basically.
The bravery.
What did you think that Tracy was up to here? What had you thought she was up to?
I thought she was either going to drug her to make her feel like what she'd done to Ken, or she was going to put drugs in the soup to make her get hooked on them again. Kind of like how you'd give an alcoholic a drink and then they'd go off the wagon.
It probably would have been a bit of a risky move for Tracy to have actually drugged her, because Cassie could have just dobbed her into the police and she would have got in a lot of trouble. And Cassie still wouldn't have got in trouble herself, because like Craig says, Ken needs to raise a complaint or you know, whatever.
But people need to believe Cassie when she says, and I don't think they would.
What?
If it'd be Tracy and Cassie's word, right? And if Tracy gave her an illegal recreational drug, no one would believe that Cassie's like, it fell in my soup and I had it by accident.
Yeah.
Right. So she gives them both a soup and they're both eating.
Delia Smith's potato and leek soup.
She said it was Nigella Lawson.
Nigella was it? Sorry, I thought she said Delia.
Well, Delia Smith probably does have a potato and leek soup, but Nigella Lawson does not.
Well, there we go. Must have been.
So they're eating the soup, and she's a bit suspicious.
But she's also hungry, so
yeah, and so they sort of have this discussion, and they're looking regretful. And
well, I seem to think that Tracy, when Cassie was talking about Ken and asking about him and asking about his back, I got just a little note from Tracy in the way that she looked at Cassie, as if to say, oh, you know, maybe she would be good to look after my dad again. I don't know whether...
I think this... I genuinely think that at the end of this, it's going to end up with Cassie back looking after Ken.
Probably,
because they'll be like, look, maybe you did try to kill him, but at the end of the day, you're the best carer we can afford.
Although, I've got the idea of her being behind the bar at the Rovers now in my head. And
well, she can do both.
She couldn't she? It just lives next door,
isn't it?
There's
loads of people
that
have two jobs. I mean, Sean's a bartender and a knicker stitcher.
Yeah.
So, anyway, after lunch, after they've had this discussion, Tracy suddenly gives Cassie this dodgy drugs bag. And Cassie's like, I've got clean, I'm not going back there. And Tracy's like, no, here you go, I'm trying to help you, you're a scumbag, here you go. Get off your face.
I was really, as a Cassie fan, I was quite proud of her for the amount of resistance she put up against this.
Well, she grabs it and goes.
She grabs it in the end. She grabs it in the end, but she was like saying, no, I'm clean, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's so devastated, isn't she? And kind of, it's all coming back to her again. And this is just, you know, Tracy's the hero in this scene, kind of. But this is...
In what sense is Tracy the hero?
Because she's the character that lots of people are rooting for. It is interesting because she's the main character. I think a lot of people will take her side more than Cassie, but lots
of people will think that Cassie's getting her just desserts here, that's true.
Yeah.
But the show is clearly trying to redeem her. She doesn't need it in my eyes.
Let me finish. What I'm saying is, I'm liking how Coronation Street is leaning more into this grey area of characters. Because one of my biggest criticisms of Crow for a long time, overall, was that everyone was good and good characters would do bad things, but they'd always have to justify it by saying, oh, here's all the reasons why.
Yeah.
But recently, they've started having more ambiguous behaviour, more grey areas, and more characters that are willing to do things that you wouldn't necessarily agree with. And I think it makes it so much stronger.
Good.
When a character that you like does something that you don't agree with, it's very challenging. And any story is driven by conflict, and if the conflict is internal, it's even more interesting. So Cassie's got this conflict with being tempted, and she's done these terrible things to Ken, and you've got Tracy, who's supposed to be one of the main characters, what you would think in a normal show of being the hero. She's there giving this addict drugs, and who knows where this could go.
Do you think that Cassie's going to try and get Tracy in trouble for this?
No, I don't think she's... I don't. She might take revenge.
He said, she said, isn't it?
I think she could probably try to take revenge, but I don't think she could get her in trouble.
Well, this was Tracy trying to get revenge on Cassie.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where it ends up. It just ends up in a cycle.
Yeah.
But for all Tracy knows, and she's been around long enough to know this is the case, that could have been her giving Cassie her death warrant, because it wouldn't necessarily stop at that, would it?
No.
It would have. It could have escalated, and we don't know where she's going to go. We don't know how this is going to end up.
I did like that Tracy had gone to this extreme, because she has had some of the rougher edges sanded off of her over the past few years, and she has become a bit nice and a bit safer and less bitchy over the past decade or so, hasn't she? But I think that literally trying to, giving an ex-addict some drugs, which, like you said, could have killed her, was kind of classic early 2000s Tracy there.
Yeah.
She got her mojo back a little bit.
Evelyn finds Cassie, who's in Victoria Gardens, and she hides the drugs and her bag of...
Well, she just shows them behind her back, doesn't she? Because she puts them in the bin later.
Equipment.
Yeah. And
she said, Evelyn's like, look, you look terrible. And Cassie says, oh yeah, okay, let's start with the lecture.
Mm-hmm.
And Evelyn's like, no, I've come back, I'm going to sort you out, let's go. So Cassie chucks the drugs in the bin as they walk out of Victoria Park, whatever it's called, Gardens.
Yeah, Victoria Gardens.
Viz and Tyrone are then confronted with Evelyn telling them that they've got to take Cassie back in. And they're both very resistant. And Evelyn says, look, Ken's forgiven her. Ken wants her to stay on the street, and he doesn't, he wants her to not, be taken in. Well, who are you to sort of say that she shouldn't?
Yeah.
And Tyrone says, no, I don't want to around the girls. I don't know what she's capable of. So Cassie leaves, and Evelyn follows her, and she's kind of like saying, you're giving up too easily. And Cassie's saying, I'm disgraced. What's the point? What's the point of fighting? I'm only here. You're only here because you feel embarrassed that your daughter has now again let you down, and you're trying to fix it because you're worried about your reputation.
These two actresses together, aren't they brilliant? It wasn't the same as the hospital scene, the Cassie first proper big scene with her mum, but these two together, I totally buy their relationship, despite them being relatively new characters. And Cassie was brought back from the dead, because the first we heard of her was that she had died, and the writers were like, no, let's actually bring her back. But I 100% buy their relationship, and just the real bumpy road that they've had for the past 50 years or so, however old Cassie's supposed to be. It's fantastic. I love them together, and that's one of the things that's the saddest for me about Evelyn not being a regular character on the show anymore, is that we're not going to get as many scenes like this, but at least we still get some, and this is just fab. Well,
Evelyn gives her a bunch of money to get herself a hotel, and Cassie sort of accepts it.
Eventually, she doesn't snap her hand off, does she? Because she doesn't want to. She's like, I don't need anything from you, but she kind of realizes that maybe it's worth it in the end.
Craig sees Cassie rooting around in the bin where she'd thrown the drugs, and she says she's looking for a tram ticket, but she's obviously, going back to the drugs. So Evelyn goes back to number 9 and says, "You've got to do something about Cassie." And Tyrone puts his foot down and says no. Steve and Tracy sit down for dinner, and Tracy tells him that she's moving in now that Cassie's gone. And then the last thing we see of the story is Cassie homeless again.
Same place. Billings Alley.
She's
on the phone to someone, isn't she?
Tracy overhears her on the phone, seeming to ask for more drugs.
Well, yeah,
and Tracy's just like the cat that's got the cream.
Yeah, Cassie's there saying, look, when can you get to me? I need it soon. Don't let me down. I need it tomorrow. Yeah, and Tracy thinks it's brilliant. She was trying to get Cassie hooked again, and she thinks she's won. I'm not convinced that is what's happened, and I think it's going to turn out that Cassie is...
I think it's a misdirection.
I think it's a misdirection. Do you... Because we didn't actually see Cassie finding the drugs in the bin, did we?
No, but that doesn't mean that she's not going to ask.
No, but I think that if she didn't find the drugs, if she didn't take the drugs, she seemed strong enough earlier on in the episode that she doesn't need them. Yes, the temptation was there. I think if she'd had a bit of drug, just a little snifter of it, then wham, she probably would have been hooked again. But if she didn't find them in the bin, I think that she probably would have had the strength of character to not, phone up Dean or whoever a dealer is at this point and to get a little bit more. So, yeah, I think that she's probably planning a surprise or something. And but then that begs the question, what has happened to the drugs? And I think it could have been an interesting little development if another character had rooted in the bin and found them themselves, don't you think?
But what would they be looking for? A pregnancy test?
No, but if you could have had Hope or Jack or someone find them, couldn't you? Just to kick off another little story. But I don't know.
Well, that's the end of that.
That's the end of that. I love that. I love that story. It clearly is going to be carrying on Monday. I don't get the impression that Evelyn's going to be there on Monday, do you?
No.
I think it was a little one-episode appearance, and it was very important that she was there.
Next story.
Just bring her back. Well, everything else that we're going to kind of run through in today's episode, there wasn't a whole lot that went on, and it was a little bit spinning its wheels. On the whole, you got Betsy, who this is the Rob on the Run storyline, snuck off to this party on Friday night, and there's a little bit of a panic on Monday morning because Carla looks inside a room and can't see that she's there.
So it's a bit like Steve when he realised Amy wasn't there.
Yeah. So they and as all everyone's phone is always running out of battery on Coronation Street, isn't it? I know that in this modern world when people have always got their phone on them, they're always contactable. It really makes certain dramatic tensions from the past not be viable.
This is like every horror movie, they have to explain why the phones don't work, or every found footage film's like, why are you filming? I want to document the Bigfoot that's going to kill us all by the end of the film.
Yes, but anyway, they can't contact Cassie. He's a little bit worried because
Betsy,
because they're worried if Rob's got her. There's an awful lot of just hugging going on between Carla and Lisa on Monday and Wednesdays, wasn't there?
They need affection.
Yeah, a lot of reassurance. But anyway, Carla finds her. She's found her in the precinct. Well,
Lisa's obviously worried, and Carla goes and finds her.
Yeah.
And she's been on the booze. She's drunk. She's stinking.
Yeah. And Lisa says, look, Rob is still on the loose. You need to keep your wits about you, girl. And Betsy's like, no, I'm not going to be cooped up. Last we heard was that he was spotted in Brighton.
It's not the Blitz, Mum. I can go out at night.
Yeah. So she says, well, I'm going to go out and I don't care. So she goes to the precinct and what do you know? Rob is actually there.
What?
Robin Hood is there and he gives chase, and this is when Betsy runs back to the street and has that little awkwardly edited hug with Carla, and
Kit's there too. Kit's there, and he does this weird finger poke.
Does he?
He kind of pokes them in the back as they're hugging. He's kind of like,
I missed that completely. I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, they go back to the flat, and Carla and Lisa were worried about Rob. I wish that we'd seen more of this. I suppose there wasn't room for this story in amongst everything else, but having last week Rob loitering around Prima Donna, it really did feel like it was leading into, he's going to turn up this week. But
it's really fascinating too, because this was the day before Kit confronts David about his baby, and you would think really that it would have shaken him up to have seen Betsy, and knowing that's Lisa's daughter, and thinking about how protective and how fragile she is, and how much you know, and thinking about, oh, if I was a dad, I could have protected. Like, I wasn't there for my baby. It really probably did stir up a lot of emotions, but you didn't get to see any of that.
No.
From his perspective. You just got him driving David to an industrial estate. I thought maybe they were going to pick up some lumber or something to make a little shed, maybe.
Wednesday's episode was all about a dead body being found, wasn't there? Down by the hospital, I think that they said. And Carla's invited to go and identify this body, which the police are thinking may be Rob.
Count the kidneys.
What? Yeah, that's what they should have done, shouldn't they? They should have just counted the kidneys.
Counted the kidneys. He's got 4. We're really confused, but we think he might be a Time Lord.
I mean, when you have to identify a body, is that pre, post autopsy? I don't know. They could have just done a little X-ray on him, couldn't they?
They'd be like, what's his distinguishing features? Has he got any tattoos or any kind of thing that we could use to sort of really say before we ask somebody to traumatise themselves?
I think, does Rob have tattoos? He may have done. And literally, they've got pictures of him. This guy is a wanted murderer. He's been on the run for weeks. They must know that this isn't him.
Usually,
why put Carla through this trauma?
Usually, when they ask you to ID, they normally have a pretty good idea about whether it's this person or not.
Yeah.
And they need you to sort of do as the formality to say...
Is it just a box-ticking exercise?
This is the person. So the fact it wasn't actually him is actually really shocking. They're like, eh?
What do you mean?
The fact that they... I don't think that... I really think that in this modern era, I don't know how often it really is down to the relative to say whether it's the body or not. I think by the time they get to that, they almost always have a pretty good idea.
I'm just saying they must have known that it wasn't him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So why are they asking them?
I don't know. I think it was just
for
more drama and more opportunities for Lisa and Carla to have a hug on Wednesday.
On a very basic level, there would be fingerprints on file because he was in prison.
Yeah.
So is this like an armless corpse?
And I think, you know, whether or not you've seen spoilers about what's going to be happening on Coronation Street in the near future, I don't think there can have been many viewers watching on Wednesday thinking, oh, I wonder if it is Rob. Because that would have been a seriously lousy ending.
An anticlimactic one, because he just turns up dead.
He's loitering around a bit, he doesn't catch anyone, and then he turns up dead. So I think if anyone had a bit of nous to them, they would have realised that clearly this isn't it. But I don't think people cared if they were wanting to see all the Lisa and Carla scenes, to be quite frank. So anyway, she goes to the police station for the grand body unveiling, and it's not him. She runs out the room. You don't even know right that, into the arms of Lisa, and she's like,
until she says,
"It's not him." It's
the
not
woman.
Him.
So she goes in to look at this body, and there's a lady in there who's kind of like, are you ready for me to take the blanket off? And she does that, and then Carla runs off, and the woman's like, oh. They always run away and they never tell me yes or no. This is so stupid. I'm sick of this job. I hate this job. Why can't they just say yes or no? I'm going to have to follow her now.
Anyway, they go back home and they're just having a bit of reflect on the day. Betsy's going off in a strop because... I can't remember. Is it just because she'd have preferred the body to have been Rob's? Because then they would have all been safe.
Lisa and Betsy wanted it to be Rob. And I don't know that Carla knows this. I think she might, if she thought about it, realise that that's possibly what they think. But I wonder if there might be a scene where it kind of comes up that it would have been very convenient for them if it had been. And then Carla might have very mixed emotions about... Because it's her brother...
It's her brother, but...
Yes, exactly. And so she can probably... Like, Lisa and Betsy have no reason whatsoever to give any two hoots about this guy. And Lisa's a very practical woman, and I think, even though she knows how much it would hurt Carla, I think she would say, in the long run, it's going to be better for Carla if he is dead. But
Lisa would probably at least appreciate the fact that he is the reason why Carla is, happily jumping around with 2 kidneys inside of her. He saved her life. didn't he?
Anyway.
But it's, he's served his purpose now, hasn't he? So maybe it is.
You
better
can't take
if
any
he's
more
done.
kidneys.
Yeah. Anyway, more to come on that very soon, I think.
We get Kit come in and say,
Oh,
Lisa,
yeah.
I've got something to say to you privately.
He tells Lisa that somebody has held up a pharmacy. It must be Rob. And that felt like, ooh, what's going to happen there? Nothing's going to happen there.
That was Wednesday.
Yeah,
we didn't say anything more about it. And they thought it was Rob because he took antibiotics and not painkillers. Really? Wouldn't he be in pain? Wouldn't he take some anyway? Honestly, if I'm robbing a pharmacy, I'm taking plasters, I'm taking vitamins, I'm taking one of those really expensive toothbrushes. I'm taking anything I can get my hands on.
Maybe he takes a box of contraception just in case he gets lucky while he's on the run.
Exactly. I'll be like, this is like The Walking Dead. I'm taking everything.
And I'll definitely take a load of Chupa Chups lollies because you often get those little spinny carousels in the pharmacies, don't you?
Yeah, and some really delicious cough syrup.
Yasmin has buggered off to London this week. How did that happen, Gemma? It felt somewhat quick.
Well, we know that she had this charity job offer last week.
Yeah. And she decided to go
for it. So she goes to see Alia in the pub and she's like, they want me to start now.
It's always the same. It's so silly,
She's like, someone else has dropped out. I'm really confused about this. Why? What do you mean someone's dropped out? I thought you were headhunted.
Someone's decided to stop being charitable.
I thought you were headhunted for what role?
Was she headhunted? I thought that...
Yeah, they offered her the job.
Oh, I don't know.
What role is it that somebody else was already in there and you could just slot in, but it's not the original job that you were going...
about it
No, I won't anymore. So she's like, what should I do? What about the restaurant? And Ali says, just go. I'll sort it out. And she's like, all right, fine.
It's just so ridiculous how quickly people move on Coronation Street. But this felt like even quicker than a usual silly quick Corrie exit. This was literally like 2 episodes.
Very fair on
2 episode exit for Yasmin. Seriously.
It just felt silly. So she comes back, she says, I've packed, and guess what? I found somebody to buy my shares in Speed Dial. It's Leanne! When I heard this, I was like, amazing. Correct. Last week we were like, wouldn't it be great?
Idea.
No, of course we didn't. We'll never pull the wool over your eyes and pretend that predict things that we knew were going to happen, because I think that would be just so awful and crappy of us. We would never do that because you would be able to work it out. I don't know if this was common knowledge that this was going to happen, but it's just the most perfect. It's just the most perfect.
Yeah.
Pair.
They haven't gone anywhere with Nick finding out and then butting heads or anything, but I'm sure it's to come.
I just want more of this. I hope that this was not... Because on Wednesday, Alia and Leanne maybe come to an agreement. And I'm like, no, I want drama.
I want them to be at loggerheads for many weeks to come.
Well, Yasmin gets her a toast from Ken, Mary, Brian, Leanne and Roy. They all say goodbye to her.
Yeah.
And
off she goes,
She gets in the car. She gets some flowers from Brian.
Well, they're Julie's reject flowers, aren't they? From when he was trying to offer her, but at a bit of a sensitive moment when she's confessing things to Eileen.
Yasmin says to Alia that Adam's a good boy and she should keep hold of him. They have a hug, say they love each other, and then drive off. And by the time she's left, Leanne's already telling Alia that Speed Dial's a dump and she's going to make it much better. Alia looks like she is not happy to hear it.
Would you have liked Yasmin to have had a more dramatic ending or an actual big story? Because, people were a bit miffed by how low-key Gail's exit storyline was, but that was War and Peace compared to what Yasmin got.
Look, there are 2 characters left this week with a whimper, didn't they?
Max and Yasmin were real,
and Tommy
O as well.
They're kind of clearing the decks a bit, and I've said before about because Corrie has so many exits, anyway. In general, there's always at least half a dozen. If everyone had a big exit story, then you would only ever have stories about exits, because that's, one every other month.
I just feel sad when some characters clearly just get put in the back of a taxi and off you go. At least she was driving herself, which gave her a bit more agency. But it very much echoed what we got with Kathy.
Yeah.
But again, even that was maybe 3 episodes long that she got. And Yasmin's been in the show for 10.5 years.
what I'll say is that we did know that this was happening.
Yeah, we've known that Yasmin was leaving for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, not a very long time, since the beginning of November.
Longer than it's ever been public knowledge.
Yeah.
And so, we're not going to spoil it for people. But it wasn't like as soon as we knew that she was leaving, we were like, oh, I can see how this is going to go. There are other characters that have left where you could see the exit begin to come into place weeks or if not months before.
Yeah.
Yasmin just went, I'm bored of this, I'm going.
Yeah.
And it happened the next week.
Yeah. It kind of fit maybe how Yasmin was at the beginning when she was a bit more of a side character, I suppose. But she was the face of Coronation Street's 60th anniversary week, and I guess she just didn't have enough links left in the show to make a big story out of, and maybe that's why it's possibly time for the time could be right for the character to go. But I'm very sad that she's left. There's only one Nazir left on the street now, isn't there? And this family have been here for 11 years or so now. What do you think? Do you think this is basically the end of the Nazir legacy? Is Alia going to carry the name forward? Is she going to stay in the show?
There's no reason at all why there wouldn't just be, hello, it's me, your auntie. I'm Yasmin's sister.
But I don't think they need to.
No, I would be disappointed in Corrie if they scrapped their, only Muslim characters completely.
But they've done a lot better than I think almost everybody thought that they would at the beginning. There was a lot of cynicism about how long this family would last when I think it was Stuart Blackburn brought them in, and people weren't a big fan of Stuart and his producing style and anyway, and when he was like, oh look, we've got a Muslim family, and I think everyone and they're moving into number 6, which is the house that the families who only stay there for a few years tend to live.
Yeah.
And actually the fact that they've lasted a decade is
remarkable.
But yeah, it is pretty remarkable. Will we see Yasmin again? I don't know, maybe. I'm glad that she at least got a positive exit.
Yeah, that's true.
She wasn't killed off. She wasn't driven off in disgrace like, say, Beth was. Beth got more of an exit storyline last year, didn't she? But then it wasn't that great a storyline, and maybe it's better to have a quick storyline than one that goes on for a few weeks and just isn't that great. I don't know. But I love Yasmin. I've been really pleased to have her on the show for all this time. We've known for 5 months maybe that she was going. Yeah, I think. And yeah,
it was very sad when we found out, because we do really like Yasmin and we love Shelley King. So.
She told us round the back of the gates one time when we were there in November. She said, "You do know that I'm going, don't you?" I was like, "No, I didn't know that." Oh well. It doesn't mean it's the end, does it? But
no, but I tell you what, it's just the beginning.
It is just the beginning of the new management at Speed Dial, which was very fun to watch on Wednesday.
Now, Leanne's taking it seriously that she is a part owner now of Speed Dial. And she doesn't care that she doesn't know anything about Pakistani street food. What she does know is how to make a menu. And she thinks that Alia doesn't, because she's already produced, the day after Yasmin's left, a brand new small plates brunch menu that includes loaded fries.
This is brilliant. Leanne was like a real highlight of January this year for me, and things have gone a bit quiet on the Leanne front since then. But she was right back in the, I don't care what you think, Alia, I'm in charge, and it was lot of fun to watch.
Leanne is like, I don't care if I ruffle a few feathers here. No. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to do. So Alia's really mad about this. She gets to, she's ripping up bits of paper.
That was quite fun as well. This was a bit like Tracy and Cassie, wasn't it? Because with that story, you're on one side or the other. And I think there were loads of people that were Team Alia on Wednesday, but we were 100% had our flag in Leanne's camp. Although, the bit where Alia rips up the menu was
funny.
Quite a fun.
It's funny because these women are both petty. Yeah. They're both business minded. And they're both very passionate. And they're both stubborn too. And they both think they've got brilliant ideas, which are actually really very mediocre.
These two are perfect to
butt heads.
Yeah, to together to
So,
have loggerheads.
Alia's mad. Leanne is distracted because she's got a phone call from this school, and it's Sam who's sick. And it's funny that he's asking for her. She's just flattered that he wants her.
Yeah,
to look
especially after
him.
everything that's happened.
So she brings Sam back, which is, probably surely restaurateur 101. Don't bring sick children to a restaurant that you're running. But she doesn't care. She has a bitch off with Alia, who has already scrapped her menus. And they try to be civil with each other. And Sam tells Leanne that he's proud of how mature she's being and this new start that she's got. And it feels as though Leanne is kind of like very happy to play up to this image that Sam has created in her mind of herself being this capable businesswoman.
Yeah,
and maybe
he's been mega let down by her in the last few months, and
she feels like maybe this is a chance to show her that her worth to Sam. But I don't want that. I want her to argue with Alia about samosas.
She can just wait until Sam goes to carry on.
Just wait for and go look.
I think there's got to be some kind of battle between the bistro and speed dial now, surely, with Sam.
And Sam will be like,
in the middle.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah. I love this. That's just what I wanted.
Yeah. This was exactly this is great.
Yeah.
And like one of these things where it's like, prediction. It makes sense. It wasn't like an out of the complete blue. No. It was just like a really logical thing to put those two together.
Yeah. I mean, what clearly wasn't logical about this story was just how quick Yasmin upped and left, how quickly she found Leanne to buy into the restaurant. It was like that was on fast forward to the max, wasn't it? But oh well. Julie's storyline this week. So poor Brian, unaware of what's going on in Julie's medical life, is all a fluster on Monday because he wants to take her out to dinner, and but yeah, he doesn't realise that this woman is on borrowed time here. So meanwhile, at number 11, Julie's helping Todd and George get ready for the work, and she's saying to him, "Oh, you'd probably best start thinking about my funeral, hadn't you?" And he says, "Well, yeah, pop round the undertakers later. We'll see what we can do." But really, Julie, you need to reconsider your decision to keep Eileen out of this because it's a massive secret. And she's getting upset that you're avoiding her. Julie doesn't know what to do at this point. So she goes round the undertakers later, hears about this funeral that he's just been to, which is like a positive kind of celebration of life type funeral. And as is perfectly befitting for her character, that's what she wants too. What George notices then is that Julia has brought her cases along to the undertakers, and it turns out that she's going to do a flit. She just can't bear to be here living at number 11 without Eileen knowing. But Eileen does know very, very soon because she's followed her there, and Julia's left with no choice but to say, "I'm a bit unwell. Well, a bit more than a bit. I'm dying. I'm so sorry." What did you think about Julie revealing the truth to Eileen at this point? Was this a good time? Should she have just told her straight away? Was there enough drama eked out of the fact that there was a secret going on before this? Or would you have rather that that the diagnosis had been kept a secret for longer?
No, I didn't like. Wow, it's fine how it ended up.
It makes sense. I'd rather it was out in the open, I think, and you get the lovely scene later in number 11 where Eileen and Julia sat there on the sofa, and Julie's saying about her sarcoma and all the tragedy there, and saying, "Look, I've not got much more than a year left." It was really, really sad scene, but the two characters that are in it are so wonderful. Julie, I love watching her. It was a lovely scene. And then you get the interruption of Brian halfway through when he comes round with the flowers, and it's just sad, isn't it? Sad stuff. And then she like basically slams the door in Brian's face, and Eileen she doesn't know what to do. She's feeling a mixture of anger and upset. We've been rubbish about keeping in touch, and now you're telling me you barely got any time left. Well, I'll tell you what, Julie, I'm going to be there every step of the way from now on. And that's kind of it, really. The truth is out. We're going to make the rest of this, the time that Judy's got left, very, very lovely. So I'm still mad at Coronation Street, exceedingly mad for killing off Julie in this way, but I've got every faith that they'll at least be able to make it somewhat enjoyable to watch, because Katie Kavanagh is an absolute gem of an actress, and I'm glad that they've brought her back. Yeah, great performances all round, really. What did you think about the whole Brian element of it? Do you think that he's going to be involved much in it? Are we going to be seeing more of him?
It feels like it's significant that he is involved in this, because they could have just very easily forgotten any link that they had. Because you know, things have happened more gregarious. You know what I mean? Worse than this, where people have like just completely flat out ignored something.
Well, Brian at this point still doesn't know, does he, about the diagnosis?
Do you think he might? Is he going to go for? You know, and say, I don't care how long we got left. I just, you know, we've got to be together again. Or is he going to say, oh, maybe I want to be with Mary?
I'd almost kind of like him to do that first one, because Peter Gunn can be such a brilliant dramatic actor, like we saw when he was helping Abby out after Seb died. And it could be a real chance for him to show that, and one of the few chances for him to show that. So would you prefer that or not? Would you prefer him to keep his distance from that? He can't keep his that would be very cruel and callous, and Brian's not like that, to say, what, that you got cancer, well, I'm never talking to you again. Surely he's going to be involved in some part. But yeah, would you like to see him pursue a final bittersweet relationship?
I don't even want to. I mean, I don't really want to talk about this story.
Because it's a cancer storyline. Very sad.
I'm doing my best here. There's no need to ask me
about
fine. Like, how do I want to see her die in his arms, or, you know, how many tubes she's going to have coming out of there.
I'm kind of taking the attitude that, you know, this story's happening whether we like it or not. Clearly I don't like it, and I'm trying to make the best of it, and I think maybe having some kind of final last thing with Brian might be good. But I think Julie's the sort of character who wouldn't let him in. I think because she's got such a big heart, I think she would say, no, Brian, I can't let you do this to yourself. So we'll see. We didn't see any more of that after Monday anyway, and we saw it. It was odd how little of the Dylan story we got this week. I was expecting there to be a bit more on Wednesday and Friday, because we got 3 scenes with them in the prison. Him and Brody.
They're doing drugs.
Yeah.
What?
There's lots of drugs offering this week in Coronation Street.
I can't believe it. I went to itv.com/advice, and there was no list of local dealers.
Well, but yeah, for both Dylan and for both Brody and Tracy, they clearly had no difficulty in getting hold of these illegal substances.
Terrible.
I enjoy. It was funny seeing them both a little bit high, wasn't it?
Oh, am I doing this?
Yeah, this is you.
Well, you know, on Monday they get drugs and they get found out, and Brody covers for Dylan, and then it kind of makes him feel like he owes him a favour.
Yeah, he said that Dylan didn't take the drugs, but he clearly did, because he was yeah, he was. They were very, very stoned, weren't they? What was the line about can you jump higher than a desk? And Dylan's like, I didn't know desks could jump.
That made me laugh. And I wondered if maybe
I
was, maybe there's something wrong with me.
No, it was a funny line.
Because I wasn't on drugs and I still found it funny.
It's a funny line. But yeah, weird how little that was in the episode, but what can you do? Dee Dee, finally. You got a return to Ed this week. He's got his beard. And today's episode was basically him still struggling to come to terms with the fact that when this baby pops out of Dee Dee, she's going to be hauling it off to a foster care or an adoption. So well, he wants to be a granddad again, and I know he's got Glory, but he's obviously a proper family man. He loves a baby.
It's his daughter's first baby.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult for him to accept.
His family's important to him.
Yeah, especially with Aggie gone, he wants to rebuild that family.
He's supporting her, but he's not he's doing his best, but it's clearly not exactly what Dee Dee wants. Dee Dee would like nobody to speak of it ever.
Yeah.
But he's not able to keep his feelings really hidden that well.
Do you think that he should, as her dad, should he think, this isn't what I want, but she's my daughter, I'm the grown-up, I need to respect her decision?
Anything to do with kids is really hard to give any opinion on, isn't it? Because you're just going to offend a bunch of people.
It's Dee Dee's body and her choice at the end of the day, but I could totally understand Ed saying, are you being rash here? Is it because it's Joel's baby and you know what he's like?
Well, it's difficult because it's his blood too. It's not his body. He's obviously going to be sad and affected by it, but he's got no right to make a choice about what she does.
No, she ends
but you can't pretend that he's not gonna have his own emotional reaction. And she's dealing with it too. I think she's having it.
Yeah, it's not easy for her.
No.
She's made the decision that she thinks is right because she doesn't want to look at this kid and think of Joel every time, and I'm sure she's battling. She's not going to give the baby up for adoption, is she?
She's clearly like, she cares about her dad, and it must really hurt her to go against what he wants her to do, because I think Dee Dee clearly feels like a very family orientated daughter who's been dutiful and done all the things that are expected of her. She's grown up, she's got good grades, she's done everything right, and now she's doing something her dad doesn't want her to do, and it must be really difficult for her to see how much it's upsetting him, but she's very sure that she's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and Bernie helps her to, concrete this decision, doesn't she? Because she sits her down and said, look, do you regret giving Kit away? And Bernie says, look, well, yeah, but I didn't have what it took to look after him back then. He had a wonderful foster family. They brought him up to be the stand-up, totally not bent copper that he is now, and someone's going to make a fabulous parent to your baby.
It's really hard because you can't lie and say this is going to be an easy choice for you, but Dee Dee, you're not going to have any. You're going to never remember this again. It's going to be completely fine. You can't lie about it.
No.
And Dee Dee's the sort of woman who wouldn't forget or always would think about it. But if she really thinks it's the right thing to do, then that's what she has to do. Yeah. It's really interesting. I wish we got a bit more of Dee Dee. She's got nobody to talk to who's her friend. She was getting advice from Bernie as kind of a wise elder, but she's not got a friend anymore.
She had scenes with didn't she have scenes with Sarah?
Sarah's just an idiot.
But yeah, the fact that Dee Dee has been off our screen so much this year has kind of made this storyline lose an awful lot of steam. But it's going to be picking up. It's clearly picking up now because Ed's calling in the reinforcements, isn't he? By the end of Friday's episode.
How involved Sarah got with Dee Dee, and I always thought it was a bit weird.
Why?
I just thought it was like, what's it to do with you? You're not friends with her. It's not like they're friends, is it?
They're clearly fair weather friends because now Sarah's got her own dramas with the Platt family.
Has Dee Dee said anything like, "How's your house? I heard, how'd your family's house burned down? And your mum moved to France, and are you all right?" No, she didn't care at all. She's just walking around going, "Oh, I've had a baby."
Yeah, so Ed phones up somebody who he thinks is going to be able to help Dee Dee change her mind about this adoption thing, and I think lots of people know a bit more about what's going to happen.
I think it's another baby.
What?
He's calling another baby to come
over and make her give a.
Like, don't do baby.
No, babies are cool. There have been some spoilers out in the past week about who this is that Ed is calling up.
You don't know. It could be.
We will wait until next week to go down that route, and that's it for this week's Coronation Street. So it was. I'm gonna say it was an all right week this week. I don't think there was any episode there that really made me go, "Oh, that was brilliant." It was kind of plodding along fairly nicely.
There was
this
nothing
week.
that was like I hate the show.
No, nothing as that was that. I did think, yes, Max
good, isn't it?
and Yasmin's exits were a bit rushed, but I think as Coronation Street fans we're used to that now, and we just have to deal with it sometimes. I thought that the stuff with Rob was a bit of a nothing. They could have made more than that, but I guess they're saving it until a future week. I really enjoyed the Cassie stuff. I'm glad that we got a reunion for David, Daisy and Daniel. Yeah, it was fine. I'm giving it 3.5 sarcastic sarcomas out of 5.
I was gonna give it 3.5.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna give it 3.5 wet Nelly lefties.
Wet Nelly lefties. Oh yeah, like Ken. Okay, character of the week this week.
Character of the week is tough.
I think I'm gonna say Cassie this week.
I was just thinking Cassie.
I just I clearly enjoyed that story more than the others. That Daisy was good. I'm glad that Jenny got more serious scenes towards the end of the week, where she's not just being a bit of a ditz that she's been in the past year or two.
And just to be clear, like when somebody is like, you know, Daisy grieving and she is clearly going through a tough time, it's not to say that she shouldn't be acting the way she is, or anyone's got any right to tell her how to react or behave or feel. It's just that it's not always fun to watch. And you can't deny that that's the whole point of the way the character's acting out of character, to make you realise how affected they are by it. You're not supposed to enjoy it. You're not supposed to think, oh, I love this about them. You're supposed to feel a certain way about it. So
So are you going with Cassie this week as character of the week?
I didn't mean to copy you completely, but
that's
when
all right. Sometimes
you said that,
sometimes we think
I'd
the
already
same
been
things.
thinking I was going to say Cassie.
Oh, there we go.